The point where a lot of people got mainstream radicalized against this was actually with COVID. I think that the way that the government handled COVID and the way that you couldn't question or ask any sort of dissenting opinion about COVID radicalized, I think, a large enough contingency in the population that the damage that that did, the trust with the government, like it put it back by like 20 years.
And every single time I would just feel like raising the middle finger and screaming obscenities, which is not an adult response, I'll concede, but that's how I felt. And I think that's really at the heart of why the Epstein thing is so distressing.
Oh, here we go.
I mean, the guy was some weird sex freak who was abusing girls.
Yep.
We knew that. But the fact that the U.S. government, the one that I voted for, refused to take my question seriously and instead said, case closed, shut up, conspiracy theorist, was too much for me.
Well, it's also that I think that he's not going hard enough, at least not yet. Trump was the one who pushed it. He was the one that started putting out names. He said Prince Andrew. He said Bill Clinton. Why the fuck were you saying this if it wasn't true? Why were you saying this? And he either owes us an explanation or he owes them an apology. Because going around and implying some guy is some sort of collaborator with a generational pedophile and kind of insinuating that they were doing the same thing is total reputation destruction. Complete reputation destruction. Why the fuck is he not coming? Like, I think he should be held accountable for that. You're just making up bullshit. Never apologize, right? Well, it's not even about, that's not even true. You should apologize if you're wrong. If you're wrong, you should apologize. Never apologize if you don't think you're wrong. You can apologize if you think you're wrong. That's fine. But an explanation is needed at least.
And I don't think the rest of us should be satisfied with that. And by the way, let me just say really quickly, because I was so mad about it that I think I found out part of what's going on. I think we are going to find out more. And I think the truth, for whatever it's worth, in case you're interested, is that the DOJ didn't release lots of incriminating sex videos with Epstein and his billionaire pals because they don't have them. They don't have them because when the original...
They said they had them.
Search warrant was served 2007, I think, possibly 2006, I think 7. It was basically designed to protect Epstein. The search warrant was written in such a way to make sure that the feds never got their hands on the actually incriminating evidence. Another way of saying the cover-up has been going on since 2007, almost 20 years. And so the real question is not, was Jeffrey Epstein a weirdo who was abusing girls? Yes, we can answer that. The real question is, why was he doing this, on whose behalf, and where did the money come from?
Yeah.
And those are the questions that need to be answered. And I think it's entirely fair to ask them.
True.
And it's not adequate to say anyone who asked them is somehow desecrating the memory of little girls who died in Texas. I'm not going to put up with that answer.
It's a bullshit answer. It was probably, I think it may have been the worst answer Trump has ever given to any question ever.
Care who gives that answer. That is not acceptable. And I think the real answer is Jeffrey Epstein was working on behalf of intel services, probably not American. And we have every right to ask, on whose behalf was he working? How does a guy go from being a math teacher at the Dalton School in the late 70s with no college degree to having multiple airplanes, a private island, and the largest residential house in Manhattan? Where did all the money come from? And no one has ever gotten to the bottom of that because no one has ever tried. And moreover, it's extremely obvious to anyone who watches that this guy had direct connections to a foreign government.
From my limited understanding of history, it seems like one of the historical figures that Epstein is kind of similar to is Rasputin. Because Rasputin was able to infiltrate and get involved inside of the Russian family and create incriminating evidence and like basically establish himself as a confidant and a piece of power inside of that. And I think that Epstein did the same thing. Their whole circle. Yes, exactly. I don't know. Maybe that's a crazy thing for me to say.
Let's go. Let's go ahead,
I feel like from what my understanding is, it's a big stretch. And I think that maybe if I knew more about him, I would realize that I'm wrong. But from what I understand, it seems pretty similar.
And no one's allowed to say that that foreign government is Israel because we have been somehow cowed into thinking that that's naughty. There is nothing wrong with
Shut it down.
saying that. There is nothing hateful about saying that. There's nothing anti-Semitic about saying that. There's nothing even anti-Israel about saying that. I've spent my entire life pretty much in Washington, where I knew and loved a number of people, including one very close person who worked at CIA.
Sure.
That has never prohibited me from saying, I think the CIA has done some horrible things. Murdered a bunch of people, participated in the murder of a sitting U.S. president. It's got a whole trail of crimes.
Good.
That doesn't make me a disloyal American. It doesn't make me anti-American in any sense. I was born here. My family's been here for hundreds of years. I love this country. That's why I live here. So criticizing the behavior of a government agency does not make you a hater. It makes you a free person.
Well, I'd say it makes you an American. Like, I think there's a certain degree of, like, for example, I think that there's a big difference between criticizing the CIA for having too many connections to Israel and criticizing ICE for arresting illegal aliens, right? Like, I don't think these are the same thing. But at the same time, you know, again, it's your right to be able to do that.
It makes you a citizen. You're allowed to do that because you're not a slave, you're a citizen. And you have a right to expect that your government will not act against your interests, and you have a right to demand that foreign governments not be allowed to act against your interests.
Why is it that we have the... Why is it that we allow AIPAC to even have any influence over our politics in the first place? Like, if there was, like, a political action committee that was for the CCP, everybody would lose their fucking minds. You know why? Money? That's bullshit. I don't believe that. You think Israel are the only people that have money? There's plenty of other people that have money.
That's not creepy. It shouldn't be forbidden. And yet all of us have trained ourselves to believe that you can't say that somehow. That that's like too naughty and forbidden. And the effect of making that off limits has...
I think that also there's been a secondary reactionary effect because some of the pro-Palestine people have been so aggressive and ridiculous with how they behave that it's alienated some people away from the cause and towards Israel, which I think is inaccurate. I think that, you know, again, you should never support something as a reactionary stance from somebody else's behavior.
Been to create a lot of resentment, and I'll say it, hate online, where people feel like they can't just say, like, what the hell is this? You have the former Israeli prime minister living in your house. You have had all this contact with the foreign government. Were you working on behalf of Mossad?
Interesting question.
Were you running a blackmail operation on behalf of foreign government? By the way, every single person in Washington, D.C. thinks that. I've never met anyone who doesn't think that. I don't know any of them that hate Israel, but no one...
Well, why aren't they coming out and saying? That's the problem. Is that Tucker Carlson can say that people are telling him this behind closed doors, but we need to get these people out in front of an audience and saying it. They're bought off. Very easy solution there. If they're being bought off by a foreign government in order to subvert our government, that's treason. So charge them for it. That's it. Just do it. And again, it's treason, and yes, exactly. And the reason why, and they call it lobbying, it's career suicide. Well, I mean, I don't know about that. I mean, they can choose between career suicide or capital punishment, in my opinion. Go ahead. Pick your poison. In this case, literally. People are such pussies that they allow these malicious bad actors to take advantage of them and to ruin everything. They ruin fucking everything because nobody wants to call this stuff out for what it is. Nobody wants to take decisive, deliberate, extreme action because they're afraid.
Feels they can say that. Why? I think the longer that we play along with it, the more subterranean and creepy and hateful the conversation actually becomes.
It's true.
Did this happen? And of course, that question has been asked to the government of Israel, and their answer is, we're not going to tell you.
Oh.
And I think our answer should be, no. As long as we're sending you money, if you were committing crimes on our soil, we have an absolute right to know, did you do this or not?
Exactly, yeah. Like, if we're sending them all this money, why can't we just withhold it unless they give us the information?
And yet everybody has been so brainwashed into thinking that's somehow an expression of hate or bigotry when it's not. It's a baseline question that every U.S. citizen has a right to an answer on. What the hell?
And Israel has done this, and a lot of pro-Israel lobbies have done this too, and they have maligned people inaccurately as anti-Semites when they are in fact just critical of Israel's actions.
Oh, love this. And by the way, if it turns out that it was nothing at all, that somehow Jeffrey Epstein really did earn $165 million giving tax advice to somebody, which is, for the record, a lot more than most people pay their accountants.
It's bullshit. And the reason how you know it's bullshit is because if Jeffrey Epstein gave some kind of, world-class, nobody can think of this tax advice ever, then why didn't these people that were involved with him start paying a lot more taxes after he died? It just doesn't make any sense.
And that none of this was actually a foreign intel operation, and that there was no blackmail involved, that actually Bill Gates was just hanging on the island because the weather was especially good. No one was videotaped doing anything immoral or illegal, and then that was used against them to get them to obey. If all of that is false, then just tell me how it's false.
How do we know that? What do you think? What do you think? Do you really think that after Epstein died, they had to pay twice as much in taxes?
The battle starts in 5.
Use your fucking
4,
brain.
3, 2, 1.
Just think for
All
1
you need to
second.
do is capture
You
the
don't
missionary.
need. This is the problem that a lot of people have.
I swear if this outfit
Not
gets
everything
ruined,
has
there will be
explicit
hell to pay.
empirical evidence. Sometimes you have to just make a guess. You do. And I'm making a guess. I think I'm right. Common sense is a common. Yeah, you've got to be able to make a guess. It's called extrapolating from incomplete data. Yeah, it's bullshit.
But don't call me a lunatic. And when Fox News runs a piece, as they did yesterday by Hugh Hewitt, saying that anybody who's got even more questions about Epstein is some kind of nutcase with an unhappy personal life, who's spending too much time on Twitter in the fervid fever swamps of conspiracies. Up yours, buddy. Then why don't you answer the question then? Don't let anybody insult you, anybody, and I mean anybody, ever get away with insulting you instead of answering a legitimate question.
That's a fucking fact. That is a fucking fact. That's perfect. I love it.
Okay? Ever. And by the way,
Yep.
you will hear certain people say, well, that means you hate the person. No, it doesn't. I've got a bunch of kids. I would never let them get away with that. If I caught one of my kids, smoking weed in the bathroom at my house, I was like, are you smoking weed in the bathroom? Shut up, racist! You hate me! No, you're my child. I don't hate you. Answer the freaking question. Were you smoking weed in the bathroom or not? I'm not the criminal here. You seem to be.
There it is. No, he's fucking right. He's completely right about this. And let me see, I can pull up some more about this too. Okay, here we go. Notice that JD is staying pretty quiet about all this. It's because he knows he doesn't want to stink of his name on it for the future. I don't see the reason why he needs to get involved. It's not really his thing. I mean, like, yeah, why would he?
Obviously, that's absurd. I quote the New Testament, but I also refer to common sense when I say that no man can serve two masters. It's not possible. I only have one wife for that reason. You say to your wife, I'm gonna take another wife, but I'm gonna love you just as much. Nothing's gonna change. My wife's gonna look at me like, no.
That woman leaves.
One wife.
Two
Because
women
you can
leave.
only really pledge your loyalty to one person or one country. This is a fact. And there's also a sense, and this is relevant to me.
I think this is true, by the way. If you seek any form of public election or public election to office, I think that upon winning, you need to renounce all forms of citizenship to any. You need to not only renounce, but you need to also make it transparent to the public that you had, actually probably in order to even run. You know what? To even be on the ballot. I think that you need to disclose any citizenship that you have, and upon winning, you need to renounce any citizenship that you have, even if it's for city council. Nope.
And I know you're speaking about Israel, but it's not just Israel, to be honest.
What if you run and then lose? Well, then you don't have to renounce it.
I think it's a huge problem. I think anybody, by the way, who serves in a foreign military should lose his citizenship immediately.
That makes no sense. It absolutely makes sense. I want people who are working in the American government to be, I want them to be completely locked in to the gravity of their decisions. I don't want them to think that there is a lifeboat or another place that they can go in case those decisions don't go well. That's what I think. Complete accountability. That's a bit much. That's a bit, you're telling me it's a bit much that people shouldn't be citizens of other countries whenever they're elected officials of ours? That's a bit much for you? I don't think that's enough. I'm being reasonable.
There are a lot of Americans who've served in the IDF. They should lose their citizenship. There's a lot of Americans who've served in Ukraine. They should lose their citizenship. You can't fight for a country and remain an American, period. Obviously. There's like not even, it's so funny how all of us get cowed into being like, oh, that's hate speech. No, it's not. You don't hear hate in my voice because there isn't any. It's an obvious recognition of the truth. But there's a more insidious thing, and I say it's not just Israel. I'm not just trying to like give myself cover. I'm just being honest. There are a ton of countries that offer citizenship, actually, some of which I love. I have been offered citizenship in a couple different countries that I really like, and I thought about it. And then I thought, no, there's something about being lashed to the mast. Like, everyone can see that America's in trouble, the demographic trends are really bad, and the country's decaying, and cities are falling apart. So you're like, oh, wow, you know, maybe I should flee. And then I'm like, my ancestors are from here. My parents are buried right across from my kitchen. I'm staying here. And the second you make that decision in your head, like, I don't care what happens to America, I will be here.
30 seconds.
It totally changes your attitude. You're like, I don't even...
You know who else believed this? Hernan Cortez. When he burned the motherfucking boats. And do you want to know what's so crazy about it? It worked. And Pizarro? Yep. He burned the fucking boats. Arthas? Yeah.
4, 3, 2.
I don't even care. It's my country. And they've been here for so long and fought in all of these wars. My ancestors, and I'm sure yours, would be totally shocked.
Not a good example? No, it absolutely is. My point is that when you're locked into the outcome of something and you actually have skin in the game, do you remember what I said before about the election? Is that I don't bet on what people say, I bet on what people bet on. And that's why I said definitively Donald Trump was going to win the election the entire time. And there were people saying that it was going to be 50-50. It's because when people actually have the opportunity to put their money where their mouth is, they are automatically a lot more conservative and realistic and less idealistic instantaneously. And whenever you add accountability to actions or words, then you have that accountability and those words measured at a much different rate and a much different level. Bookmakers are right. Yeah, and so, yeah, don't bet on what people say, bet on what people bet on.
Some of the conversations. Foreign flags in the Congress? Are you joking?
So somebody said again, well, I disagree. I served in Ukraine. I don't think I should lose my citizenship. I think that's crazy. That's not what I said. I never said that. I said running and winning political office. Are you running for and winning political office? No, you're not. So why are you even talking about that?
These wars, my ancestors and I'm
That's what Tucker said? I don't care what Tucker said. That's not, that's, I don't, it doesn't mean that I agree with everything he said. I'm giving you my opinion. I'm listening to what he's saying and then I'm saying what I think.
Us against the world. Chris would be totally shocked by some of the conversations. Foreign flags in the Congress? Are you joking? Yeah. And so,
get out.
Once you decide you're all in on your country, it really changes the way you approach everything. And by the way, it should be the baseline requirement. You shouldn't be allowed to serve in government if you're not a U.S. citizen or you're a dual citizen. Are you joking? Of course not.
Absolutely. 100%.
And I would love to know what the justification is. And of course, there isn't one, which is why they're allowed to just write you off as some sort of like freak, some internet freak, hater, Nazi, whatever. I'm not. Just an American who loves my country, and I think it's fair to demand that the people running my country love it every bit as much as I do.
True. And that they're locked in. Yeah, this is it. Remember, I think Steve Jobs said that he never took advice from consultants because consultants don't have any level of accountability of their decisions. Anybody that will never stand to own the consequences of their advice, you should always take it less seriously. This is something about amnesty. We'll watch this one too. Depends on the type of consultant. Some consultants save your money right out the gate. Oh yeah, sure. I mean, everything exists on a spectrum, but it's the entire idea that I'm bringing up.
Any questions? Yes, sir.
What do you think about amnesty for farm workers?
What do I think about amnesty for farm workers? I think it's the most grotesque thing I've ever heard. Ooh. Are you joking? Oh. Amnesty for farm workers. We have like 60 million illegal aliens in the country. The country.
How does it keep going up?
To the country I grew up in, and it's not better, it's worse. So I'm not going to sit for another lecture from anybody telling me we need to import more people to write code or pick grapes or any other task. Period. It hasn't worked. The country hasn't gotten richer. It hasn't become more unified. Those words should burn on the tongue of anyone who utters them. How dare you talk like that? Amnesty. How about deportation? It's... Ooh. What about that? Any questions?
Oh, man. I'm loving that, man. Yep, there it is. Based? Absolutely. I love to fucking hear that. There you go. Yeah, GP keeps going up. Yeah, how do you fix the... Have you tried to fix your Tourette's? My Tourette's? I don't think I have Tourette's. And 60... I think 60 million is probably a bit much. But, you know, I'll see if there's any more of this to look at. But, yeah, I think that's basically it. Does anybody who serves in foreign military should lose their citizenship? I don't agree. I don't agree with this element of it. I think this is too far. Personally, I just don't think so. Especially when, like, for example, like like the logic with this, I don't like, because in a lot of cases we are serving on behalf of a foreign military whenever we go to solve problems like World War II, or we go to solve problems like Vietnam, or you know, the Middle East conflict. Like, we're not really solving a direct issue of our country, we're solving an indirect one. And so it's different. I think it's different, but it's not different enough for me to draw this distinction. Of course it's different, but I don't think that you should lose citizenship for serving in a foreign military unless the military is like adversarial to the United States or something like that. So that's really it. I'm gonna go back, I'll see if there's any more of this here. And where the fuck did it go?
This is real!
Jeffrey Epstein was working on behalf.
Yeah, this is it. And Tucker Carlson, people are popping off about this, and I'm very glad to I'm very glad to see it. I really am. The real reason why your rent is so damn high?
It's late 2023, the Phoenix area. Investigators with the State Attorney General's office are looking at apartment rents. They're up 76% since 2016. Something is off. These 4 building rents are 12% higher than others, but they offer similar amenities. They have different landlords, so you'd think they should be competing with one another.
Yeah.
But they weren't.
Why would they compete with each other if they could all settle with having the same price? Like, nobody wants to lower their prices. Price fixing, by the way? Yeah, but like, what I'm saying is that price fixing is a natural outcome of a free market. I know that sounds crazy, but it's true.
We're allegedly being set by one entity, an algorithm owned by a company called RealPage.
Oh, wow.
In fact, this was happening everywhere in the area.
That's old-fashioned price fixing using new technology.
We allege in effect a housing cartel.
Over 2,000 miles away, something similar is happening. It's alleged that all of these different units, their prices were set by one single algorithm, which sounds bad. And it could be happening in cities and states across the country. Renters have filed over 30 different lawsuits against RealPage.
Oh my
God. We're going to talk about what all this means, how algorithms, these black boxes of data, are shaping our markets and giving an incredible amount of power to the few. And how the Department of Justice and some state attorney generals are fighting back.
Okay.
Because this is a story about how a few lines of code broke the American housing market.
Jesus. I didn't even know about this before.
What is RealPage?
So RealPage is a company that operates software that allows landlords to input their data into an algorithm, and then RealPage sets the prices for all of those landlords. This is actually against the law.
So they're not price fixing because somebody else is fixing the prices. That's cute.
Attorney General Mays isn't the only one alleging this.
Our allegations are that RealPage, in combination with 14 of the largest landlords here in the District of Columbia, are effectively colluding with one another to set rents.
Across America, rent is up 20% since 2020.
Oh my God. Wow. Dude, this is in like 5 years, 4 years. 2024 just started.
The Attorney Generals of Arizona and DC are suing RealPage and a host of big landlords, alleging that an algorithmic housing cartel is helping drive up prices.
In the pre-RealPage days, landlords would compete with one another.
They played a guessing game with rent prices. Push it too high and people move, leaving landlords hunting for new tenants. It was a delicate balance, a market. And I'm not sure if it was fair, but it wasn't rigged.
Okay.
An algorithm helped change all of that.
We're talking about an algorithm that aggregates otherwise confidential information that the landlords have that ordinarily they would not share with their competitors.
Data like rent prices, lease expiry dates, any deals they offer to tenants.
That allows then the algorithm to spit out a pricing recommendation, all designed to keep the overall market at its highest peak.
They are not charging what the market can bear. They are controlling the market. It's leading to the exacerbation.
I wonder how they could stop this. Because I feel like legally it's kind of hard to stop something like this. That's probably why it keeps happening.
Of our affordability crisis, our housing crisis here in Arizona.
If you could imagine a smoke-filled room where the landlords, the largest landlords in the District of Columbia, came together to decide what they were going to charge in rent, to share their confidential information, everybody would be able to see that that's an anti-competitive practice.
Until recently, using shared pricing algorithms like this flew under the radar. If your algorithm set prices, you'd just say, it's not cheating, it's a suggestion.
Right.
Not anymore. Lena Khan and the FTC have said just a suggestion, that's price fixing, no excuses. And RealPage, according to the lawsuits,
your algorithm can't do anything that would be illegal if done by a real person.
To the lawsuits, they weren't even pretending the prices were suggestions.
RealPage has a system set up where the landlords who have adopted the system agree to a set of rules.
Y'all go and talk about killing them like a firing squad. If you go and try to kill them, they're just going to pay other poor people to kill you. Like, everybody likes to circle jerk about like, oh, I'm a revolutionary. That's not the way it works. Don't tell them. You think they're not going to figure it out? Look at history.
One of the rules is that RealPage gets to set rent prices. If landlords want to charge less than the digital oracle suggests, they have to justify their decision.
The justification needs to be reviewed by RealPage.
The French Revolution, y'all don't understand what that was. That was not the poor people revolting against the rich people. That was like aristocracy and high-end, like high-income earners revolting against royalty. It was nobles versus nobility, yeah.
RealPage can push back against the justification.
And if you push back too much, RealPage can kick the landlord out of the scheme, with one insider telling investigators, sometimes we were happy to see customers go.
They also had a policing agent that would go out and make sure that the landlords and their leasing agents were staying in line and not deviating from the price that was being set.
This scheme, if true, has had a real tangible impact on Americans.
RealPage advertises that it's going to increase revenues 2% to 7% for the participants in the cartel.
Wow. What RealPage is telling these landlords and is doing with these landlords is, don't worry about occupancy rates anymore. It doesn't matter really how many people move out of your building, you're still going to grow your revenue over time.
That makes sense though, right? Because like, yeah, if you're charging way more money, but it's like if you charge 20% more, you lose 10% of your customers, you're making more money. That's a good point. And you're also making even more money than that because then you don't have to do maintenance on those buildings or in those rooms. That's smart.
How? Through these coordinated price increases.
In Phoenix alone, we've seen rent increase 76% since 2016. It is
76%. Oh my God. You have a $2,000 rent. Now it's 3.5K. That's insane.
Almost certain that people were evicted as a result of these price increases, and that some people were made homeless by them.
Oh, absolutely.
To their prospective customers, the landlords, RealPage is pretty open about all of this.
Yeah.
You can go to their website, type in a zip code, and view a sample of what buildings are using the software, along with any corresponding price changes. We'll see this building right here, rent is actually down about 4%. If we just zoom out a little bit, a few blocks over, this rent is actually up 4%. They used to have videos where landlords talked about how RealPage's algorithm pushed them to raise rent.
Yeah.
But the company deleted it after the Washington Post ran a story.
Yeah, see, that's a probably good idea because, like, you don't want to have a video that's, like, talking about, so we was scamming people like this and we made a lot of money, like, because it just makes you look bad. It does. It makes you look bad. You shouldn't be doing that.
On investor calls, they're flat out saying the algorithm is going to recommend higher lease rates for every property. But the company goes to great lengths to train landlords to hide this scheme from renters. Landlords were coached across a variety of scenarios and told not to mention RealPage or pricing algorithms.
Well, duh.
Instead, they were supposed to say stuff like units were being priced individually.
So they just lie. That's cute.
RealPage and the larger industry dispute the charges.
By the way, I think this problem is going to keep getting worse. Because what's happening, right, is like you're having, like, poor people get poorer, rich people get richer. And whenever that happens, you're going to have more rich people with more houses, but it's going to be less, it's going to be the same rich people, if anything, less rich people with even more houses. And so that's going to, like, think about the ratio there. You're going to have even more power over the market at that point. And like this is happening more every year, especially now as like the internet has popped off. People are starting to learn how to do this. I think it probably was always like this to an extent, but now it's like super, super, super escalating because I think of, resources and tools like this that, nobody really previously had access to. Seems pretty sustainable. Yeah, I mean, that's the problem. Yeah, BlackRock is using AI to acquire and sell. Yeah, no doubt. Of course they are. It should be legislated against. Of course, they're just running the clock. Yeah, but like the problem is that the people that do this are smart. It's not like that. These guys aren't stupid that are running these systems and running these scams. So like they're really good at trying to undercut the law, get around the rules, figure out a way of, oh, this doesn't really apply to us. Like, oh, well, if we change this, it's technically not against the rules. Like, it's really hard to stop this shit from happening. No, they're dumb and short-sighted. Sure. I mean, like, you can say that all you want, but isn't it crazy how like they just always somehow come out ahead, but they're all stupid? Sure. That's a cope.
Out of lawsuits, RealPage has largely stayed quiet, ignoring a request for an interview. But the industry has published.
You should never underestimate your enemy.
Itself. They make a bunch of different arguments.
And these
but it
people
boils
are
down
your
to
enemy.
Two major points. The first, sharing info doesn't mean they're teaming up. Why? Because the rental world is just too big and too messy for any sort of secret deal to stick. But that doesn't seem to stand up to scrutiny.
The RealPage algorithm is being used by nearly 90% of the apartment owners in the DMV.
RealPage control.
And this is happening with a lot of like big tech companies. I think it's happened with Google. It's happening now with smartphones and like basically apps in the US are controlled by two companies. So this is like a massive multi-billion-dollar industry that is effectively owned by Samsung and Google. Or like the Google Play Store. Sorry, Samsung and or Google and Apple. Excuse me. Sorry, Google and Apple. Like this is bad. That's a very bad thing to have. Like, and you're seeing this with everything, right? You're seeing it with social media. You're seeing it with renting. You're seeing it with search engines with Google. You're seeing it with like apps on phones. It's everything. Everything is becoming a monopoly. And the problem is that because I think a lot of the leadership in like government are so technologically illiterate, they don't even really understand what's going on. So like they're always playing a game 20 years behind.
70%
I think that's what's happened.
of the rental units in Phoenix
Ignorant
and
or
they
paid off?
control
Both.
At least 50%
Both, actually.
of the market in Tucson.
90% in DC, 70%.
Yeah, I actually, that's a really good point because I actually agree with you more now that you said that than even what I said originally, because yeah, I actually think that a lot of the senators understand these problems, but it's in their financial benefit to allow them to keep happening. I think a better way to explain it would be that the general voting population doesn't understand the problems, or they do understand the problems, but they believe that they're on the right side of the problem, so it's beneficial to them. And you see this very regularly, people that are happy whenever a bad thing happens to a bad person. But that doesn't make the bad thing good. I think for a lot of people, though, being able to draw that distinction is very hard. And so they can't push for this either. They can't push for, like, for example, getting rid of gambling in children's games with, like, microtransactions. Like, they can't push to get rid of this. And the reason why is because if you are a senator and your primary voter base, like the average age of a voter is like, I don't know what it is, right? But like, let's actually see. Average age of a voter in the US. This is really kind of hard for me to get like a super simple answer, but median voters, I was gonna say 53, 50 something white person who didn't go to college. Maybe that's the case. I think there's probably a lot of other instances here. Voter turnout in elections, 2020 by race. Let me see, is there anything else here? Yeah, I don't think there's like a super simple way to look at it. But the point is that a lot of people who are 53 don't have the same level of technological literacy that somebody who's 35 does. Because like you think if you're 53, that means you were born in 1971, right? And so if you have that, guess what? You don't know, you did not grow up with the internet. You did not grow up with, what do you call it? You didn't grow up with like technology in the same way. You didn't grow up with cell phones. You didn't grow up with social media, anything like that. So that's a massive difference. And so those people just simply don't have they don't even have the vocabulary to understand the problems. So like whenever they hear that their senator who they voted for to stop border patrol or to start border patrol, either build the wall or destroy the wall, is focusing on regulating video games, they're going to be like, what are you doing? What the fuck are you talking about video games for? And that's what happens. And this isn't talking about Biden. No, I'm talking about either one. Like, I think the Democrat voters are the same thing. And like, remember, like, young Democrats had a reality check. Remember in 2016 and then again in 2020 where they all thought that, you know, oh, Bernie Sanders is really popular on social media. He's going to have to win it. And then all the boomer Democrats were like, oh, I remember Joe Biden. He's been around since he knows what he's doing. He couldn't have been around here so much. He didn't know nothing. We're going to go with Joe. Like, we know that. We know Joe. Like, yeah, let's go for it, right? And then they just vote for that shit, man. And they never think about that shit again. Like, they vote for that. Like, they go up there. They get driven up there by, like, their church. And then they drive home. They watch the big game. They don't even think about that shit again until the next election. And that's the average voter. It's hard to get to them and make them understand like a social media algorithm, right?
It's hard for them to understand like an app on a smartphone. Because they just don't give a fuck. That's the problem. That's why it keeps happening. I do think some senators are actually like technologically illiterate, and like people in the government are. I do think it's a big problem, but it's more a problem with the voting population, because the voting population doesn't hold them accountable for that. So like, really, what does that say?
In Phoenix, that hardly seems like a fragmented rental market. And their second point, more houses, not less data sharing, is the real fix for high rents.
That's bunk. You know, we've got apartment units all over Phoenix that aren't being rented right now because people can't afford them. The spaces are there, but people can't afford them because these landlords are setting artificially high rent via an algorithm, and that is just unacceptable.
And this is like kind of the problem with this conversation, is that it's like the logic that even if they weren't using the algorithm, like if they weren't using the algorithm, would that be acceptable? And I think that ethically the answer would have to be yes. Because like you can never say that if you own something or you own a lot of things, that you have, like, the government has the right or other people have the right to come and take those away from you as they deem necessary. That's an extremely scary precedent to set. I don't know how they can tackle this problem in a way that doesn't cause 5 more problems.
Absolutely unacceptable.
I really don't know.
Things are shifting. Renters are banding together in class action lawsuits. Arizona, DC, and possibly North Carolina are suing. They want to end the scheme, refund renters, and fine companies like RealPage. The DOJ has started a criminal investigation into the whole thing.
I don't think this is just an Arizona-based problem.
Yeah.
This is not the only place where algorithms are being used to set prices.
This is, to me, one of the...
Somebody says government defines property, though. They absolutely can. I'm not saying that they can't. Please do not misunderstand this. They absolutely can do it. It's that what the effect of doing it will cause could be worse. Because people go and they say, I see people in chat saying, well, that's good. They don't need it. That's great. That's a great mindset to have. What happens whenever they say you don't need something that you have? And this is the problem that a lot of people have. A lot of, you know, like internet revolutionaries have, is that they only view it from the lens of themselves getting somebody else's stuff, but they never think about it from the lens of other people getting their stuff.
Bigger kind of issues facing kind of our economy and consumers in the next decade or so.
There's a lot of positive
exactly.
algorithms and machine learning can do for society, but there are also risks associated with it. We can't be afraid of technology. We have to lean in and learn about it and make sure that we're keeping the public safe from the abuses that can sometimes flow from misuse of technology.
That's a smart dude. I hope he can figure it out. That's the best take on it I heard out of this whole video. Yeah, I'm glad I saw this. I didn't really know a lot about this. You know, obviously I've lived in this house my whole life. I have friends, obviously, that rent. I've had a lot of my friends, obviously not streamer friends, but like just my regular, you know, like friends I grew up with. A lot of them have been priced out of Austin. Totally. Like, that's how bad Austin is that they were completely priced out of this city that they grew up in. It's kind of sad, honestly. Yeah, it really is. It's already illegal, you know, just uphold the law. Well, the problem is that like the way that it's being done is so new that it's hard to interpret the law into something that's so new like this. That's the problem. It's that, like, it's kind of like DMCA, right? Where like DMCA law was made in 1998, but we're still using it in 2024. So like what's happened between now and then? Everything has happened. So you have like a law that's like, you know, it's basically like it's a squatting law too, right? It's like one of the reasons why people had squatting laws was from like the 1800s and shit like that. But we still have these like super like vestigial laws that exist for something, a problem that that went away, like in some cases like 50, 100 years ago. You don't want to set precedent too early and then have it applied to things in an unforeseen way. Yeah, I actually think this is a much bigger problem and it's much harder to solve than I think some people are giving it credit for. But like, I do think it's really bad. Like, for example, like I know how much apartments and places like this are. So somebody was selling a house near my house. And I remember Cody and Jeff, they came over to the house
and they looked up the house. They said, oh, this is in the area, like, you know, how much money is the house? And they were like, I forgot how much money it was, but it was like a ridiculous amount of money. And it was like somewhere around like $500,000, something like that. And they were like, what the fuck? How does anybody pay for something like that? It's insane. Yeah, it's crazy. Friends in South Florida have six-figure jobs living in their cars because rent increases are insane in Florida. Yeah. Systematic mainly because of private housing market, let free, and housing is viewed as an investment. Yeah, I know. It's like the landlord, like land ownership culture. And it's like, really, if you had a lot of money, I feel like buying houses and renting them out is a pretty good way of making money. It probably is. Now, there's probably a lot of annoying things you have to deal with, but like all these guys wouldn't be doing it if it wasn't massively fucking effective. So yeah, being a landlord sucks. Yeah, but I mean, the problem is that a lot of the people, because I bet with a lot of the people that own like multiple apartment buildings, they aren't really landlords. They are money managers for people that run the apartments. Like the people that run the apartments are accountable to them. They don't have to deal with, like, for example, you know, a tenant got evicted early and they shit on the floor. Like they don't even hear about that. They're just like, oh, okay, yeah, for sure. And then somebody else has to clean it up. Yeah, property managers. And you think about it also for like the people that are, yeah, property managers, the ones that are actually dealing with it themselves, they don't really give a shit either because they're getting paid. That's their job. So it's like this weird thing where like the accountability is displaced in so many different places that nobody really cares about it. I don't know. Like, I think it's a huge problem, but I don't know what's going to happen. I straight up don't. Yeah, it's going to get worse before it gets better. I think it's going to get a lot worse. And the problem why it's going to keep getting worse is because people are so easily manipulated. So like the problem is that a lot of people don't really understand any of these issues because they're complex mathematical issues. So you immediately rule out like 80% of the population. And really you're ruling out like 90%. And there's like, you know, the other 10% inside of that probably aren't even voting. And so how can you get people who don't know how to do multiplication to understand a pricing algorithm? How can you bridge that gap? It's really fucking hard. This doesn't scare anyone at all. Well, no, it is really scary. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm saying that it's really easy to manipulate stupid people. It's crazy. These issues likely haven't reached a climax yet. Yeah, I know. And then also, like, whenever things do get really bad, what the people in power will do is they'll just create a diversion to make people get mad about that instead. That's just what's going to happen. I guarantee you it's going to happen. Personally, like, this is a bit of a tinfoil hat, but I think that's why we have so much conversations about identity politics now. I think it's a diversion. It's a diversion from the fact that you can't afford a house, that your future is, you know, effectively locked away from you. But you're fixated around, you know, like them moving or getting rid of a statue in a building. And I think these are important issues, but they eclipse everything else to a degree that's completely unrealistic. Yeah, divide and conquer. Yeah, and it will keep working. And the reason why it will keep working is because people won't get smarter. They never do. So apparently, young adults living with their parents. How many of y'all right now live with your mom, live with your dad, live with your parents?
About 1 in 3 Americans between 18 and 34 years old live with their parents.
Yep.
And while you may have heard more about this recently, this trend isn't new.
Between 2005 and 2015, the share just grew very steeply over this 10-year period. Since then, it's been fairly stable. There was an uptick, of course, during the pandemic. In the wake of the pandemic, those rates of parental co-residence are now about where they were right
It's crazy how big of a difference that there is with men and women. Because green is women, blue is men. And men, it's like they're 10% higher to be living with their parents than women are. I think that's insane.
Part of the reason we see this escalation of young adults not leaving the nest or returning to the nest is this idea that it was harder and harder for them to weather shocks.
Nearly 30% of Gen Z said they would like to save, but don't make enough money. And roughly 2 in 5 millennials and Gen Z adults feel it's harder to build financial wealth now than when their parents were their age because of the economy. 27-year-old Victoria Franklin has been living with her mother in New Jersey since she graduated college in 2019.
I saw all of the money
2019. Okay.
that I was saving,
She's like 25.
and I thought, maybe I should stay home
23.
for a little bit, and I didn't feel an urgency to move out.
Not everyone is enthusiastic about this trend.
You guys are making 6 figures together. You can't tell me you can't afford a house. They just don't want to spend their money.
Told ya.
They just don't want to spend their money. Yeah, exactly. That's the reason why. It's weird to me because I feel like a lot of I feel like in a lot of like Asian culture, it seems like this isn't really as normalized. And I don't know why in American culture it's become normalized that like you have to move out when you're 18. It feels kind of weird.
36% of Americans said in a 2022 survey that more young adults living with their parents is bad for society. So here's why young Americans are choosing to
I don't think it's bad for society, but it's an indicator that society is bad. If that makes sense. Like, I don't think it's actually a bad thing, but the fact that, like, culturally that's not what's normal for us, but people are doing it anyway, it indicates that there's something wrong
with their parents and what the implications are for the U.S. economy.
My name is Victoria Franklin. I am 27 years old, and I live in my childhood home with my mother and my boyfriend.
Victoria graduated from the University of Miami in 2019 and moved in with her mom when she was looking for a job.
After I saw the cost of living and things like that after
it's expensive.
I graduated, that maybe I'd be home for about a year.
More than half of Gen Z adults say they don't make enough money to live the life they want due to high cost of living.
I ended up bartending and waitressing until October, where I got my first offer, so it did take a little bit longer than I expected. Currently live at the Jersey Shore, and I was commuting into New York City, which takes about 2 hours each way. And I thought, in 6 months or so, I'll move into the city, be closer to the job.
A 2-hour commute?
Threw a wrench in those plans.
Oh my
Victoria
God.
now works a fully remote job, which she says she probably wouldn't have if it weren't for the pandemic. Without a commute to worry about, she was able to stay at her mom's for longer.
It's a lot harder for young people today to save up for markers of the American dream than it was for previous generations.
This is why people are communists now, by the way. It's because they can't afford and they can't look forward to anything good in their life. And so they want to destroy the entire system because they're stuck living at their mom's house, like trying to apply for jobs that they're never going to get. That's the reason why. It's not even that people hate America. People hate America because they think that America hates them. That's it.
Part of the reason we see this escalation of young adults not leaving the
Trump
nest or returning to the nest is this idea that it was harder and harder for them to weather shocks. And so, for example, if they suffered a layoff or they suffer some sort of health shock or they got in a car accident, if they didn't have any additional credit to weather that shock, they would end up moving back home. The financial
that's what happens. It's like being broke and like not having like money to like fall back on. It's like playing hardcore in like Diablo or PoE or something. Like you make one mistake and you're back to like level 1.
Stability of young adults, their ability to pay for things if they got into an emergency was one of the big factors influencing whether or not they were living on their own or living with their parents.
A significant number of Gen Z adults and millennials lack emergency savings.
Yeah, exactly.
In fact, 46% of millennials and 32% of Gen Z have more credit card debt than emergency savings.
I gotta tell you something is that I think a big reason for that is because there's no financial literacy taught in high school in a lot of cases. And so people don't understand like wasting your money and like what credit card debt is, how interest is accrued, what is compounding interest, like how does this shit work? And so they just, as soon as they turn 18 and somebody says, I'm gonna give you a card that gives you $10,000, well, and none of this makes it okay, right? But like I'm just saying, like this is like, you cultivate an environment for this to happen, it's going to happen.
This can have ramifications for setting up a financial future.
Yeah.
Roughly 1 in 4 Gen Z adults say housing costs are one of the biggest challenges to financial success.
Fucking obviously. The reason why is because of the down payment, I think, for a lot of people. It's because, if you don't have a lot of money, it's easy to get like a small amount of money together, but it's really hard to get a lot of money together. So like saving up, like let's say 30 grand to like put a down payment on a house, like I don't know how much it is. I have no idea. I've never had to do this. But like, let's say saving is a 5-digit number in a lot of cases, right? Like that's like impossible for people to do.
Prices of homes has escalated over the last few decades much faster than actual incomes. So it is actually much harder for a millennial or a Gen Z to save up for a down payment to buy a home. And that's something that bears out in the data.
The pandemic did have a lot to do with it. I saw how much I was
20%?
saving and I was like, maybe I shouldn't be paying, upwards of $3,000 a month and making somebody else richer when I could stay at home, save that money, and spend it on where I want to spend it.
I feel like what she's saying actually makes a lot of sense. And also, if you look at it without the cultural context of this being a reaction to effectively like a soft recession that people are seeing because of inflation and, just like, lower job opportunities, I think that it's a good thing that people stay with their parents. I do. I think it's a very good thing because that way, like, they can help take care of their parents. They can live all in the same place. I think it's good. Like I've said before, I think the way that a lot of Asian countries and Asian families do it, it's better than the way that we do it. It's absolutely better. And so it's like this whole premise that it's a problem that you're living with your parents. Who decided that?
My job and my bartending and waitressing, I make anywhere from $85,000
normal in a lot of cultures. Yeah.
a year. I would say about 40 to 50% of my salary is going right into savings. My mentality is, why rent and give my money to someone else when I can start to own? And so a big chunk of that money is going to go towards a down payment on a house.
Young adults ages 25 to 34 in high cost of living areas are more likely to live with their parents.
Yeah, bro, look at California. Big fucking surprise there.
26% of young adults in New Jersey were living with at least one of their parents in 2022. The median household income in Oceanport, New Jersey, where the Franklins live, was nearly $133,000 in 2022, while the median value of a home in the region was around $644,000.
Holy shit.
My dad built this house for $350,000 and was making probably $10,000 to $15,000 less than I was. My mom wasn't working at the time.
Wow.
And they were able to afford a $350,000 house on a $70,000 a year salary with a son. And that's not even the American dream anymore. That's not even possible. My aunt.
Well, a lot of people look at $100,000 that you can make and think that's normal. But I feel like for a lot of people now, if you were making, like, let's say $100,000 in like 1998, I bet that's probably like 220,000 now. Let me see. So 80,000 in January of, let's say, 1998 versus October of 2024. I'm thinking 220,000. 156. It's less. Okay, to be fair, it is less. But man, that's like 50% more. That's a lot fucking more. 100K is insane? Yeah. It's still almost double? Yeah.
Who I fight with all the time is always saying how you have to give somewhere, right? And my cousin said something to her the other day and said, we're giving everywhere. We don't get property. We don't get good school systems. Whatever we're trading off is too much to trade off.
Victoria had brought up some conflict with her aunt a few times.
Oh, this is my Aunt Judy.
So I asked Aunt Judy to come on over and talk to us.
I talked about how much we
Family drama, oh boy.
fight about millennials, yes, but millennials living at home and how you always say, well, you have to sacrifice something, but
Here we
how
go.
much we're sacrificing. We don't get like a big property, or we don't get like a nice house, or it's not in a good school system.
But you have to start somewhere. You have to start anywhere. Just start your portfolio is what I told you. I don't care what it is.
What the hell does that mean?
You live in Oceanport your first time.
No, but you were able to live in Oceanport the first time.
Okay, I guess it was different times.
Gen X and baby
Okay, I guess. I mean, well, that was pretty fast.
boomers may have a tougher time understanding what young adults are going through today because they enjoyed, until the pandemic recession hit, a solid almost 15 years of uninterrupted economic expansion. Baby boomers, Gen X, they weathered many economic downturns, including major recessions. But I think the big difference is that when they were starting to form their own households and starting to accumulate wealth, housing and higher ed were both—
here's another component to it that is another big factor, is that now the expectation is that it's going to get a lot worse. Like, nobody is thinking that with all these evolutions and, this like new stuff with technology that, oh, wow, now everybody's going to be rich. Like, it's really hard for me to explain the kind of optimism that people had in like the 90s for like economy and like science and the internet and like technology.
And it's basically like, think about every single thing that we have now that we're thinking negatively about, and then imagine if all of those things were positive instead. That's what it was like.
More affordable
Totally different.
relative to their incomes than they are now.
When I started out, I was making $35,000 a year. That was nothing. And he was making $35,000 a year. You guys are making
That was 185 years ago.
6 figures together. You can't tell me you can't afford a house. They just don't want to spend their money.
Oh, yeah.
Well, why is not wanting to spend your money why is that a bad idea? Like, because, like, you know, we're thinking about this. Like, why is it a bad idea that you don't want to spend your money? Who decided it's a bad idea?
No, I don't know.
You want it? What was my first house? 250 maybe? 270?
That doesn't exist anymore. Where am I finding a $270,000
I'm
house?
not making $35,000 a year. Combined, we made 70.
In 1995, $70,000 was the equivalent of $145,000 today.
Yeah, that's basically the math I did.
Yeah, look
Yeah.
at that.
She's like, ooh, yeah, how about that?
See?
We do also have a situation that what is really good for an individual person or an individual family is not necessarily good for the entire macroeconomy.
The Federal Reserve estimates in a 2019 paper that young adults who move out of their parents' house would spend around $13,000 more per year on things such as housing, food, and transportation.
That's
One
a
of
lot
the
of money.
big boosts to consumer spending is when people
I'm surprised
form
it's not
households.
more.
Whether you're a renter or a buyer, you need to furnish that house. You need to fix things up in the home to make it livable. You end up spending a lot of money during that time. So if the pace of household formation slows down, then that's going to slow down the pace of consumer spending, and that will produce a drag on the economy.
Another issue.
Yeah, people can't spend money on stupid shit because they don't have any fucking money. Great analysis. That's true. So true. Absolutely.
Is that there aren't enough affordable properties in popular areas for younger people who are in entry-level jobs and making less money.
Any sort of housing policy needs to be multi-pronged. Are there homes that are at the price point of these prospective home buyers?
The problem is people buy up these houses, and like a lot of these houses are rented out. So like you can tell and figure this out when you look at like, for example, what's that fucking place where you can rent a house? It's not Uber House. It's not DoorDash. What's it called again? Airbnb. There it is. Airbnb. Like, if you look at how many houses that are Airbnbs now and that are basically being turned into, you know, like money printers, the amount of people that are owning houses, and like, I'm not talking about like just BlackRock owning a bunch of houses. I'm talking about like individual people who own like 2 or 3 houses and then they farm them out to people. This is massive. It's a massive fucking industry. Like, I live in Austin, Texas, and somebody showed me the amount of like houses that were like that like 10 years ago maybe versus now, and it's just a night and day difference. Limit the amount that somebody can own. I don't know. I mean, like, I'm not sure what the solution for it is, but I think it's definitely that basically people that have a lot of capital are able to buy up a lot of property, and then they're able to exercise that ownership in a way that feels oppressive to people that don't have the capital. I think that's fundamentally what's happening.
What can we do to increase the housing supply? What can we do to build? What can we do to help elder Americans, to help them downsize and move into more right-sized homes that will open up larger homes for young families? So I think one alone is not really going to do it. We've got to look both at demand as well as supply.
The other major factor here is how much student loan debt young Americans have. 59%.
They should just, for like my opinion, I think they should forgive all the student loan debt. They should let people default on it, like for bankruptcy. I view student loan debt as grooming. I think it's financial grooming, because you have children that are brought up in a school system that gives them the viewpoint that it is necessitating college. Like, you have to go to college. You have your parents in a lot of cases that tell you you have to go to college. You go to a school that tells you have to go to college. All of your teachers went to college. The entire culture that you're surrounded with tells you that if you don't go to college, you kind of just didn't make it. So big surprise that after years and years of consolidated and concerted efforts in grooming, that a person puts
you know, a massive financial burden on themselves, hoping for a better life. And I think like really the main component of student loans that I find is like actually the most compelling is the grooming aspect of it. It's the fact that you're basically approaching children that by the nature of their age don't understand anything like interest. They don't understand anything like you know, like taxes. Like they don't get these things. They're brainwashed, right? And then you basically take advantage of like this kid. You're spawn camping them as soon as they're 18. You lock them into like, you know, a $40,000 of debt. Now they're an indentured servant for the rest of their life. They're paying down their interest on their student loans. They can never pay down the principal. They're stuck with this for their whole life, and that's it. Like, I mean, of course they're going to be communists. Of course they're going to want to fucking like burn down the system. Of course they're going to riot. Why wouldn't they riot? Like, put yourself in their shoes. Yeah, of course that happens. Because these are, again, decisions that are being made, and they're taken in the context of, like, brainwashing that happened and grooming that happened while they were a minor. Why shouldn't they riot? Exactly. Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, they should get rid of these. Or, like, at least have it to where, like, they stop paying interest. Nobody forced them to study, right? Individual responsibility. So I think that your individual responsibility argument is strong, but I think it becomes less strong when you contextualize it around the fact that they were groomed into this while they were minors. That's, I think, the strongest component that goes against the individual responsibility. It's a systematic issue. Yeah. I'm not saying that you're totally wrong, but I do think that you're not 100% right.
U.S. adults say they've delayed financial milestones because of their student debt.
Exactly.
I do have a student loan payment.
I had a friend, like now he's like, you know, he's doing great, but actually that's not true. So I have a friend, this is going to sound funny. He gets drunk all the time, and he's the manager of a nuclear power plant. Like, he's literally Homer Simpson. And he's like living like somewhere up north now, right? He's like managing a nuclear power plant up there. Well, he had so much student loan debt that he was working at the hospital here. And like he was like working like tech at the hospital, and he had been working there for like, you know, many, many years. And he just wasn't able to pay off the student loan debt. Well, he had to join the military, and he was like in a nuclear submarine for like years in order to like be able to pay off that student loan debt and actually be able to get a job. And this is after he got a degree at St. Edward's University here. Then I had another friend that went to UT, and he got a degree in theoretical physics, which got him a theoretical job. So then he already had like, you know, $60,000 of debt from that. Then he had to go get an actual degree in actual engineering so he could get an actual job. Eric? No, this is actually my friend Alec, but like we were all part of the same friend group. And so he got an engineering job, and like, you know, then he was making like over 100K a year for sure. But like, I remember talking to him like maybe 5 years ago, 6 years, probably about 5 years ago, I'd say. And he still had over $100,000 of student loan debt. It was crazy. Don't choose useless degrees. I think in a lot of cases that's probably true. But I think that when you look at, again, I think a person should always look at themselves as the first, you know, like as the first line of accountability with everything. But you also have to look at systematic factors that cause things to happen more often. And it's possible to look at a person and say, you should have made a better decision. And at the same time, look at a system and say that this system needs to be improved to be a better system. Like, both of these things can be true at the same time. It's not like it's an either or situation.
It's about $480 a month. So that's my largest expense.
The liability could be worse for Black borrowers, who tend to have higher than average student loan debt and less wealth than white counterparts. Black and Hispanic respondents were more likely to say that debt was holding them back from reaching financial milestones.
Well, the reason why, I mean, it's very easy to understand why a Black household would have this problem more often, right? Because like with a lot of white households, you don't have like, if like, let's say you're a Black family, right? It's very simple. Your grandparents were victims of segregation. Like, you actually had systematic ways that the government was like keeping your family and your people down
and you were being suppressed and you did not have access to certain things. You get behind a lot. Chat's going to disagree. This is just a fact, right? So like, for example, and white people can have this problem too. And I still think that the way that you address this problem is through class and not through race, because a white person can very easily have this problem. But I think that it makes sense that it affects people that are minorities, especially black people, more often, because they're the ones that had to recover from, They had to recover from, segregation, Jim Crow, and before that, slavery. So, for example, like my family, we came over to America in like the 1500s or the 1600s. So like by the time that like, my dad was a kid, like they had already built up multi-generational wealth. So it's not that big of a deal. But for a lot of people that, like let's say they just basically, they only have had like 2 generations to really build any sense of like actual consistent generational wealth. You see kind of what I'm saying? Black people have a debuff. I don't think that they have a debuff, but like imagine it's like a WoW server and they didn't have access to early access. They couldn't get the 3-day early access to the new MMO. So while everybody else is like level 35, they're still in the starter zone. That's basically what happened. And I think that this probably like the effects of this will last for the next 100 years. And that's a very generous assumption. It could be even longer than that. Interesting analogy? No, I'm being serious, right? And like, I know that like, obviously this might sound like a weird take from me, disagree, but to each their own. I can't see how a person can disagree and think that Jim Crow wasn't a debuff. How can you think that like literal segregation, sundown laws aren't a debuff? I mean, really, I mean, and so like, and here's the cascade effect that creates. So your family, like, let's be very optimistic and say that your grandfather, if you're black, was the first person in your family who was able to like really build wealth. You've only had 2 generations to build that wealth. Imagine now what the probability is of that family being able to have that much generational wealth to be able to pay for the new generation of that family to go to college. It is going to be at a lower ratio and at a lower proportion than white people. You see kind of what I'm saying? It's not just a racism argument. No, it's not. Well, what I'm saying is that, so there's a lot of ways that people can get to this. There's a lot of ways that people can arrive at this problem. So like there's plenty of white people who, like they had a really good family. They had one person in their family, one generation, ruin everything. And now they have, basically, they have to restart their character. And so they might have the exact same problem. So it's not like this doesn't happen to white people, but the difference is that for black people, it happened for more of them because of a systematic reason. And like the reverberations and ripple effects of that systematic reason are still being felt today. And I think that this is an example of that. It's that simple. This is different than your usual take on affirmative action. Simple. So the reason why it's different than my take on affirmative action is that I believe in affirmative action. I just don't believe that it should be race-based. So basically, from my perspective, I think that you should have affirmative action, but you should have it for people that are disenfranchised based off of their class. So if your family doesn't have a lot of money, you should get certain advantages, right? You should have money allocated to you so you can have an American dream. Now, I think that will disproportionately help minorities more. But it's not about who it's helping. It's not about the race of the people that it's helping. It's about the income of the people that it's helping. So like, I still think it's a problem, but I just think the problem should be addressed from a way that's different than identity. Yeah. People are inheriting money. How much? Yeah, people do inherit money. Twitch chat's racist as fuck. Well, and that's why I think it's important for me to say this, because I know that like a lot of people that watch my stream, they have like a very anti-DEI, anti-affirmative action, like anti that type of like outlook. And I let you guys say that kind of stuff in general, as long as it doesn't turn into
like an Adolf rally or something like that. Like, you guys can have those opinions. And that's why I think it's important for me to like put it into context, because I actually do think this is a problem. And whenever I'm criticizing it, I'm criticizing the methods. But just because I criticize the methods that they're using to solve the problem doesn't mean that I don't think that the problem exists. I think that the problem absolutely exists. And logically, if you look at it, you can see why it would make sense. Explain Asians then? Explain Indians? What do you mean? Explain Asians or Indians? Like, if you're going to use, so are you going to use, like, for example, like the internment camps? Because if you use the internment camps, the U.S. paid reparations for that. So if you really want parity, like, are you saying that we should pay reparations? They immigrated, yeah, and a lot of them also immigrated here. Like, a lot of the people that I know that are like Chinese or like Japanese or Korean, a lot of them, and this is, again, like, this is sample size of like 5, a lot of them, they immigrated here themselves. And like, a lot of the reason why they immigrated here is because they had the money to do that.
Half of white respondents said the same.
The amount of debt young adults held also rose substantially between 2005 and 2014, during that period of strong escalation in that cohort living with their parents.
Yep.
Aggregate student loans are such an enormous...
A lot of people are disagreeing with this. A lot of them immigrated from extremely rich positions in that place, yeah. It's a cultural issue. I think that culture is a factor too. But I think that you can also look at cultural and systematic issues, and they're not mutually exclusive. So while you are going to have cultural problems, that doesn't mean that people who have a disadvantage shouldn't be acknowledged that it's a disadvantage. Chat's not getting it. I think the reason why chat doesn't get it and people don't understand it, and I'd be willing to, like, if somebody is disagreeing with me about this, like, I'd be willing to, like, listen to what you're saying, but I don't think people are looking at it in the right way. Yeah, they don't want to. You can't generalize the shit, get it together. Yeah. Culture is not really a factor, it's just heritage. I think that everything is a factor. I think culture absolutely is a factor. I think heritage is a factor. It absolutely is. I think your history of the country is a factor. I think it all is. It's not like one thing causes it to happen. Affirmative action should not be a thing no matter what. You shouldn't get a job over someone who's more qualified, no matter what race or class. So affirmative action in this circumstance, so let me go ahead and kind of explain it to you what I mean in terms of, like, it being class-based. I don't think that that should be the case for getting a job or getting a career, right? But I do think it should be the case for being able to get an education. So whenever I look at, like, basically, it's kind of like the difference between like equal opportunity and equal outcome. I view giving a person an education as equal opportunity. I feel like giving a person a job as equal outcome. That's why I support being able to help people get jobs, or sorry, get education, but not get jobs. Do you see kind of what I'm saying here? The argument falls apart when you look at the history of Asians in this country. Well, let me go ahead and look at it here. Let me read it right here. So how does it fall apart? Let me read it. He's probably talking about being so wealthy. It's not because they push good education or whatever. Well, like, for example, like, Jim Crow laws weren't invented to suppress Asians, for example. Like, there isn't the same type of, like, cultural... I'm trying to think, like, there's not the same type of, like, cultural racism against, like, Asians as there is against black people because of slavery. I think that's a huge difference. Asians didn't suffer through slavery? Yeah. I don't think this person's really coming up with any other responses or whatever. I'll just time them out. But anyway, here's what my point is. If somebody is part of an Asian family and they don't have a lot of money, I think that they should also be a recipient of that affirmative action. It's very simple. So, like, if somebody is Asian and they have this issue, then absolutely they should be recipients of it. So there's nothing, all I was saying is that it's easy to understand why minorities that have been historically oppressed in a country are going to be starting with a disadvantage, or are going to have, like, I feel like it's such an obvious take that
people that have had a history of oppression would be less likely to have generational wealth. How is this even an argument? Like, really, like, how is it an argument? Like, I'm really surprised here. Yeah, chat's crazy. Yeah, of course that's the way it is. Chat's brain dead. Yeah. The Slavs in Europe, chat's already full of idiots. You're Europe. So the opportunities are based off of are not based off of merit. Let me read this real quick. So what do you mean by this? The silly part is that everybody else is supposed to compensate them? I think it's not about everybody else compensating them. It's about making sure that people have a chance inside of a system. And also that compensation, if it disproportionately affects a certain group of people more often, I think that's fine. So the slot should go to who earns it more? I'm not sure what you mean by that. Yeah, I'm not saying that people should get jobs. I'm saying that, like, there should... So do you think that there shouldn't be... Do you think that poor people shouldn't get any financial aid for college? Because if that's your opinion, then okay, that's fine, right? Just ignored what you said about equality of outcome versus opportunity. Not to who is more disenfranchised. So how should it be determined then? So, like, you think poor people should get the same opportunities as, like, rich people for, like, college? Because that's an opinion you can have. I disagree with that opinion. I think it's a bad idea to do that, but that's fine. Yes, they should, but there are only a certain number of slots. Well, then... So then we agree. I'm very confused. I think that we agree then. It's not surprising you're getting this backlash. Your chat leans more right-wing. Well, yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of people, this is like such a charged topic that people are throwing out all type of like logic or reason in order to have the same opinion. Are you saying people should receive education help based on race or class? Well, but based off of class. Obviously based off of class. Yeah, I mean, it's very obvious. That's what I've said before. All I was saying is that a class-based initiative like that would probably disproportionately affect minorities more. And so, like, here's another factor. I'm going to go even farther with this because we're talking a lot about money, but we're also not talking about education. So both of my parents were college educated. They both have, advanced college degrees. And so, and also most importantly, they both speak English. Being able to communicate and grow up in an English-speaking household is a tremendous privilege in America. And I think also people that were denied a degree of education because of, like, maybe let's say like their grandfather, wasn't able to go to a good school because of segregation, let's just as an example, or, let's say they came from another country, they are operating at a disadvantage because they didn't grow up in a household where they had access to people communicating in the language that they have to exist in. It's a bonus stat, yeah. And there's a lot of examples and like kind of soft privileges and soft advantages that people have. And I think that the problem is that when whenever you're talking about and you're looking at privileges and advantages that people have, people view it as you trying to like invalidate or like compartmentalize their success. And that's really not true. But what is true is that some people don't have those advantages. And I think that if you can, it would be good to give other people the chance to succeed. People immediately think this is a white and black issue in the US. Well, the media has done a very good job of doing that. And I'll go ahead and I'll look at another commenter here. It's impossible to compensate everyone fairly. So do you understand the way that so right now there's like student loans that are available for people that are, they don't make as much money. So why do you think it would be impossible to do that? Yeah, because like, for example, if if your household makes under a certain income and you're, because of that, you're eligible for certain types of student aid, I feel like that would be a good thing. Yeah, that's where scholarship comes in for poor people. Yeah, exactly.
You would have to do ancestry tests to trace back everyone's disadvantages.
I'm not judging.
I really think this is really sad.
To be a witch to find the magic in this world. But it
I
does
do.
help.
I think this is honestly really sad. I think people are really brainwashed. Why do we have so many race-pilled morons in chat who can't do anything but think about race? I'm gonna tell you why. It's because mainstream media has conditioned them to see every single issue in the entire world through the lens of race. They have been categorically and systematically trained and brainwashed into seeing every single thing through the lens of race. And the moment that they hear race get mentioned, it's like, you know, in Zoolander when they play Relax.
Get ready.
They just turn into a completely different person and start, you know, kind of going through their pre-programmed thinking. Yeah, you don't even understand what's being discussed. Like, and by the way, you got banned because you're being rude, not because you're disagreeing. Because you said affirmative action, you're both wrong, so chill. But you understand that affirmative action can go past any sort of like race-based things.
All you need to do is capture the mission area. Got it?
Like, I mean, if you look at the term for it, that's totally fine to use that term. As if, yeah. And I think that I'm using, it was race-based? Sure. It's an easy way for people, because everybody understands what affirmative action is. Don't you think education's a much deeper problem? It's not okay public schools, so much some variation in quality. Yeah. Hot take affirmative action you're talking about, is caused by student loan. People experience it with college. So yeah, anyway, I'll go ahead and I'll just kind of like restate what I think. And if people don't want to listen to it or whatever, that's fine. But I think this is a logical and indisputable fact. So basically you're conflating affirmative action with scholarship. No, I'm just saying affirmative action should be based off of income. So basically what I'm saying is that I think that for people that are, like, I believe in affirmative action, but for income rather than race. But I do think that when you do affirmative action for income rather than race, you are going to have it disproportionately help people that are minorities. Whether it's because of systematic or historical discrimination, whether it's because of recent immigration, or whether it's because of something just as simple as them not growing up in an English-speaking household and it being harder for them to integrate with culture. So for me to say that a group of people that has been systematically oppressed would have a lower probability, or sorry, a higher probability to not be currently wealthy, I think this is a logical thing to say. There's nothing wrong with me saying this. There's nothing crazy about this. I think it's just common sense. But the reason why I think I'm getting a lot of pushback on this is because a lot of people spend a lot of time on mainstream media and they get trained like, I don't know, like it's like a Pavlovian dog response or something, where it's like the moment that they hear race or affirmative action, their brain just reverts back to like what they've heard on social media or what they've heard on mainstream media, and they just immediately start repeating these lines. But I'm not talking about that. People aren't listening to what I'm saying. They hear like one or two keywords, and then they go back to their factory settings and they start saying the things that they're supposed to say. And you can see that be very evident here in chat when you have people that are like trying to like, they're arguing against things that I'm not even saying, right? Like I've restated this like 7 different times, and every single time people don't understand it. I want you to say what you want to hear. Yeah. And so I think this is a logical and completely common sense approach to have. And I find it to be interesting that so many people think that it's problematic. But, oh, my dad's calling.
Magneto raised me to never
stop put you on speaker.
For what I believe is right.
Okay.
Am I fucking wrong?
What?
Am I fucking wrong?
Well, I think what you're doing is you whenever you talk about this, I've listened to it for a while.
Get ready.
And you don't mention white. There are numerically in the country.
You're right.
More whites than there are any other group.
You're right.
Doom is no threat to Asgard, but Loki is.
Tucker Carlson, and to ruin everything.
5, 4,
they
3,
ruin fucking
2,
everything
1.
because nobody wants to call this stuff out for what it is.
Nobody wants to take decisive, deliberate, extreme action because they're afraid.
Feels they can say that. Why? I think the longer that we play along with it, the more subterranean and creepy and hateful the conversation actually becomes.
It's true.
Did this happen? And of course, that question has been asked to the government of Israel, and their answer is, we're not going to tell you.
Oh.
And I think our answer should be, no, no, no. As long as we're sending you money, if you were committing crimes on our soil, we have an absolute right to know, did you do this or not?
Exactly. Yeah. Like, if we're sending them all this money, why can't we just withhold it unless they give us the information?
And yet everybody has been so brainwashed into thinking that's somehow an expression of hate or bigotry, when it's not. It's a baseline question that every U.S. citizen has a right to an answer on. What the hell?
And Israel has done this, and a lot of pro-Israel lobbies have done this too, and they have maligned people inaccurately as anti-Semites when they are in fact just critical of Israel's actions.
Oh, what's this? And by the way, if it turns out that it was nothing at all, that somehow Jeffrey Epstein really did earn $165 million giving tax advice to somebody, which is, for the record, a lot more than most people pay their accountants.
It's bullshit. And the reason how you know it's bullshit is because if Jeffrey Epstein gave some kind of, world-class, nobody can think of this tax advice ever, then why didn't these people that were involved with him start paying a lot more taxes after he died? It just doesn't make any sense.
And that none of this was actually a foreign intel operation, and that there was no blackmail involved, that actually Bill Gates was just hanging on the island because the weather was especially good. No one was videotaped doing anything immoral or illegal, and then that was used against them to get them to obey. If all of that is false, then just tell me how it's false.
How do we know that? What do you think?
That one hurts.
What do you think? Do you really think that do you really think that after Epstein died, they had to pay twice as much in taxes? Use your fucking brain. Just think for 1 second. You don't need, this is the problem that a lot of people have. Not everything has explicit empirical evidence. Sometimes you have to just make a guess. You do. And I'm making a guess. I think I'm right. Comment says there's a comment. Yeah, you've got to be able to make a guess. Let's call it extrapolating from incomplete data. Yeah, it's bullshit.
He captured more than half of the mission area. Keep going.
But don't call me a lunatic. And when Fox News runs a piece, as they did yesterday by Hugh Hewitt, saying that anybody who's got even more questions about Epstein is some kind of nutcase with an unhappy personal life, who's spending too much time on Twitter in the fervent fever swamps of conspiracies. Of yours, buddy. Why don't you answer the question then? Don't let anybody insult you, anybody, and I mean anybody, ever get away with insulting you instead of answering a legitimate question.
That's a fucking fact. That is a fucking fact. That's perfect. I love it.
Okay? Ever. And by the way, you will hear certain people say, well, that means you hate the person. No, it doesn't. I've got a bunch of kids. I would never let them get away with that. If I caught one of my kids, smoking weed in the bathroom at my house, I was like, are you smoking weed in the bathroom? Shut up, racist! You hate me! No, you're my child. I don't hate you. Answer the freaking question. Were you smoking weed in the bathroom or not? I'm not the criminal here. You seem to be.
There it is. No, he's fucking right. He's completely right about this. And let me see, I can pull up some more about this too. Okay, here we go. Notice that JD is staying pretty quiet about all this. It's because he knows he doesn't want to stink of his name on it for the future. I don't see the reason why he needs to get involved. It's not really his thing. I mean, why would he?
Obviously, that's absurd. I quote the New Testament, but I also refer to common sense when I say that no man can serve two masters. It's not possible. I only have one wife for that reason. You say to your wife, I'm gonna take another wife, but I'm gonna love you just as much. Nothing's gonna change. My wife's gonna look at me like, no.
That woman leaves.
One wife.
Two
Because you
women
can
leave.
only really pledge your loyalty to one person or one country. This is a fact. And there's also a sense, and this is relevant to me.
I think this is true, by the way. If you seek any form of public election or public election to office, I think that upon winning, you need to renounce all forms of citizenship to any. You need to not only renounce, but you need to also make it transparent to the public that you had, actually probably in order to even run. You know what? To even be on the ballot, I think that you need to disclose any citizenship that you have, and upon winning, you need to renounce any citizenship that you have, even if it's for city council. Nope.
Who am I gonna banish from this match?
And I know you're speaking about Israel, but it's not just Israel, to be honest.
What if you run and then lose? Well, then you don't have to renounce it.
I think it's a huge problem. I think anybody, by the way, who serves in a foreign military should lose his citizenship immediately.
That makes no sense. It absolutely makes sense. I want people who are working in the American government to be, I want them to be completely locked in to the gravity of their decisions. I don't want them to think that there is a lifeboat or another place that they can go in case those decisions don't go well. That's what I think. Complete accountability. That's a bit much. That's a bit, you're telling me it's a bit much that people shouldn't be citizens of other countries whenever they're elected officials of ours? That's a bit much for you? I don't think that's enough. I'm being reasonable.
Pick your hero or villain. I'm not judging.
There are a lot of Americans who've served in the IDF. They should lose their citizenship. There's a lot of Americans who've served in Ukraine, and they should lose their citizenship. You can't fight for another country and remain an American, period. Obviously. I mean, it's like not even, it's so funny how all of us have been cowed into being like, oh, that's hate speech. No, it's not. You don't hear hate in my voice because there isn't any. It's just an obvious recognition of the truth. But there's a more insidious thing, and I say it's not just Israel. I'm not just trying to like give myself cover. I'm being honest. There are a ton of countries that offer citizenship, actually, some of which I love. I have been offered citizenship in a couple of different countries that I really like, and I thought about it. And then I thought, no, there's something about being latched to the mast. Like, everyone can see that America's in trouble, the demographic trends are really bad, and the country's decaying and cities are falling apart. So you're like, oh, wow, you know, maybe I should flee. And then I'm like, my ancestors are from here. My parents are buried right across from my kitchen. I'm staying here. And the second you make that decision in your head, like, I don't care what happens to America, I will be here, it totally changes your attitude. No, I don't even...
You know who else believed this?
All you need to do is capture the mission area. Got it?
When he burned the motherfucking boats. And do you want to know what's so crazy about it? It worked. And Pizarro? Yep. He burned the fucking boats. Arthas? Yeah.
I don't even care, it's my country. And they've been here for so long, fought in all of these wars. My ancestors, and I'm sure yours, would be totally shocked.
Another good example? No, it absolutely is. My point is that when you're locked into the outcome of something, and you actually have skin in the game, do you remember what I said before about the election? Is that I don't bet on what people say, I bet on what people bet on. And that's why I said definitively Donald Trump is going to win the election the entire time. And there are people saying that it's going to be 50-50. It's because when people actually have the opportunity to put their money where their mouth is, they are automatically a lot more conservative and realistic and less idealistic instantaneously. And whenever you add accountability to actions or words, then you have that accountability and those words measured at a much different rate and a much different level. Bookmakers are right. Yeah, and so, yeah, don't bet on what people say, bet on what people bet.
This is real fire!
Some of the conversations.
So somebody said again, well, I disagree. I served in Ukraine. I don't think I should lose my citizenship. I think that's crazy. That's not what I said. I never said that. I said running and winning political office. Are you running for and winning political office? No, you're not. So why are you even talking about that?
These wars My ancestors, and I'm
That's
sure
what
you're...
Tucker said? I don't care what Tucker said. That's not... I don't... It doesn't mean that I agree with everything he said. I'm giving you my opinion. I'm listening to what he's saying, and then I'm saying what I think.
There's a totally shocked conversation. Foreign flags in the car. Get out. And so... It really changes the way you approach everything. And by the way, it should be the baseline requirement. You shouldn't be allowed to serve in the government if you're not a U.S. citizen. Or you're a dual citizen. Yeah. Joking? Of course not.
Absolutely.
And I would love to know what the justification is. And of course, there isn't one, which is why they're allowed to just write you off as some sort of like freak. Some internet freak, hater, Nazi, whatever. I'm not. Just an American who loves my country, and I think it's fair to demand that the people running my country love everything as much as I do.
And that they're locked in. Yeah, this is it. Remember, I think Steve Jobs said that he never took advice from consultants because consultants don't have any level of accountability of their decisions. Anybody that will never stand to own the consequences of their advice, you should always take it less seriously. This is something about amnesty. We'll watch this one too.
Let's smash this place up good.
Depends on what kind of consultant. Some consultants save your money right out the gate. Oh yeah, sure. I mean, everything exists on a spectrum, but it's the entire idea that I'm bringing up.
Any questions? Yes, sir.
What do you think on amnesty for farm workers?
What do I think about amnesty for farm workers? I think it's the most grotesque thing I've ever heard. Oh! Amnesty for farm workers. Oh! We have like 60 million illegal aliens in the country.
How does it keep going up?
And it's not better than before. So I'm not going to sit for another lecture from anybody telling me we need to import more people to write code or pick grapes or any other task. Period. It hasn't worked. The country hasn't gotten richer. It hasn't become more unified. Those words should burn on the tongue of anyone who utters them. How dare you talk like that? Amnesty. How about deportation? It's... What about that? Any questions?
Man, I'm loving that, man. Yeah, there it is. Base, absolutely. I love to fucking hear that. There you go. Yeah, GP keeps going up. Yeah, how do you fix have you tried to fix my Tourette's? I don't think I have Tourette's. And 60, I think 60 million is probably a bit much, but you know, I'll see if there's any more of this to look at. But yeah, I think that's basically it. Because anybody who serves in foreign military should lose their citizenship. I don't agree. I don't agree with this element of it. I think this is too far. Personally, I just don't think so. Especially when, like, for example, like like the logic with this, I don't like, because in a lot of cases we are serving on behalf of a foreign military whenever we go to solve problems like World War II, or we go to solve problems like Vietnam, or you know, the Middle East conflict. Like, we're not really solving a direct issue of our country, we're solving an indirect one. And so it's different. I think it's different, but it's not different enough for me to draw this distinction. Of course it's different, but I don't think that you should lose citizenship for serving in a foreign military unless the military is like adversarial to the United States or something like that. So that's really it.
30 seconds before
Let me go back. I'll see if there's any more of this here. And where the fuck did it go?
So
who's running blackmail?
Answer is Jeffrey Epstein was working on behalf.
Yeah, this is it. And Tucker Carlson, people are popping off about this, and I'm very glad to see it. I really am.
Captain America just make a joke. Tony Stark isn't the only Avenger with a sense of humor.
The battle starts in 5, 4,
This
3,
is one thing, bro. I've been so fucking
1.
tired.
All you need to do is capture the mission area. Got it?
Back in the day, it used to be so fucking good. Everything was open until 3 a.m., until 5 a.m., and then now it's closed constantly. COVID ruined everything.
Do you ever just wake up in the middle of the night? Maybe you're having a bit of insomnia with nothing better to do, and you're just got off work, you're not ready to go home yet. So you get in your car, you go out, you pick up a late night snack, hit the gym, or maybe get some grocery shopping done. It's peaceful out. You can beat the crowds and pass the time. Maybe it's a 7-Eleven or a pizza place or even a bookstore. There's gotta be something to do besides get drunk. But after driving around for a while, almost everything is closed.
That's right.
Didn't that place used to be open all night? Even
to be fair, 7-Eleven is one of the only places that is open pretty much 24/7. Like I went to, I didn't know about this in Austin, but there's a lot of McDonald's locations in Austin that aren't 24/7. They close at like 10 p.m. There's churches that are open later than 10 p.m. What the fuck?
The gas stations stop selling gas at 7 p.m. Aside from a few bars and maybe a liquor store, downtown is dead. This is 11 p.m. on a Saturday night in Oakland, California, and it's a ghost town. But this could be anywhere in the USA right now. It's like the whole country is afraid of the dark. What happened? Why does everything close early now?
I'm an easy target.
I remember very clearly my mom and I at 3 in the morning. I'm like, you ready to go to McDonald's? And we pull up to McDonald's at 3:30, 2:30 in the morning, getting food and stuff like, no, that's the way it used to be. Yeah.
Yeah, I need gas anyway.
When you stop at a Shell station,
24/7.
more than America's best
You see that?
gasolines. At Whataburger, when you're working.
Whataburger is open 24/7. In my opinion, they should be open, let's see, 24/0. I think Whataburger sucks.
It's happening.
Us against the world.
24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
You can drive to Wendy's, where the pickup window is now open late.
There's a moment at night. All you want is for it.
I forgot all about that. Taco Bell even had they even created an entire term for
Reborn
this.
from the chaos.
Yep, fourth meal. Yeah, exactly. For fat stoners.
There was a time when it seemed like everything was open late.
Yep,
In any little town,
2018.
middle of nowhere,
Bata,
you
bata.
walk around the 24-hour Walmart at 3 a.m. looking for nothing in particular. If you needed a random item and needed it fast, you knew you could rely on something being open to pick it up.
Oh, never mind.
Unless you got it Amazon Prime, next day delivery. And only if you live in the city. If you live in a rural area, good luck. There used to be this little spot off of 19th Avenue in San Francisco called Irving Pizza. One night, way back in 2013, I was out late at a concert in Berkeley, and my phone broke. And I missed the last BART train home and got stuck taking the all-night bus. Which is slow and comes once an hour, if it even shows up. When I eventually made it back to the city, I realized that I had lost it. And it was 2 a.m. Lucky for me, Irving Pizza was open every night until 4. It gave me a place where I could safely be to sit down and eat a slice and wait for anyone, to wake up in the morning and let me inside. That little.
So I remember this is Whataburger is like this, but and I know one reason why they don't have that. I guess I'll just say it. So I had a girl visit, and she brought her friend whenever I first met her, and I said, okay, I'm going to take you to Whataburger because, this is your first time in Texas, and you're going to, this is like a year, or like 2 years ago, right? About 2 years ago. And she went in there, and she didn't even stay inside of the lobby. She was standing outside of the lobby because there were a number of potentially hostile NPCs that were camping at the lobby. And by camping, I literally do mean that they were living there. And so, she didn't even want to go in. She didn't even want to be in the lobby. Yeah, it sounds like it's bad. Yeah, and here come hot stuff. Yeah, and I was like, what's the problem? Oh my God, were they black? Wait, what? Oh, of course, because of racism. Fuck. What the fuck up?
Pizza spot saved my ass from being stuck on the street in the middle of the night, and eventually, I did get it. Granted, their other location isn't a busy part of town, and it's still open late on weekends. But in the suburban west side of of the city, places like that are rare now. That location is long since closed, but the business that took its place in that building closes at midnight now, and it's one of the latest open spots in the water. And this trend is happening more and more as time goes on. And much of it, like a lot of societal issues we've seen in recent years, stems back to 2020 and the COVID pandemic.
That's right. There it is. That's the
Seriously,
problem.
the pandemic fucked us all up.
Yep.
A lot. It was a collective trauma that society still hasn't.
Hold up. I actually think COVID was great. I finally had people that were stopped. They would not fucking bother me. Finally, people would stop fucking bothering me. I'm like, guys, I can't go out. And they're like, oh yeah, okay.
Fully recovered from. Stuck indoors all day and night, most people only left the house for essential trips or if they were essential workers. This basically killed the economy for a while. With less overall customers, retail stores either closed altogether or deeply cut back hours to the bare minimum to stay profitable. In most cities and states, indoor dining was either outright prohibited or severely restricted. And what came in its place was takeout and, of course, delivery. Enter the holy trinity of Uber Eats, DoorDash, and Grubhub. During the pandemic, I was an essential worker in San Francisco. And by that I mean, I drove for Uber Eats all hours of the night. Business was booming. I made as much delivering food than I did at the office job I was laid off from. But with it, I started to notice a trend. You'd get an order, and it'd be from some weird, random restaurant you've never even heard of. And you'd drive to the location, and it would be in some office park or warehouse or somebody nobody would ever locate a damn pizza place. And then they would run 4, 5, maybe 10 different restaurants out of this single location. Ghost kitchens.
Oh yeah, I've seen some of these. Yeah.
They only exist in the apps, delivery-only businesses, and they tend to run relatively late at night. So this put even more pressure on the average local sit-down diner. And as the pandemic began to wane a little bit, those ghost kitchens did not go away.
Team to win this
How ghost kitchens went from 1 trillion, what does it say? 1 trillion hype to a struggling business model. I think the reason why the ghost kitchens business model kind of went down and it got became is actually really simple. It's because the quality of the idea of a ghost kitchen is that it's a lower quality product. Yeah, shit food. Like the Mr. Beast thing was really bad for them.
That's just one factor out of many. Cost of living has skyrocketed. Rent, supplies, labor costs, all of it. And a lot of workers were hesitant to risk their lives to come in the middle of the night for minimum wage. And small businesses already facing tight margins couldn't afford to pay them more. So what do? You cut hours and focus on the daytime crowd.
That's right.
Fast food too. A lot of McDonald's and Taco Bell locations used to keep their inside lobbies open relatively late, if not 24 hours in some places. But when COVID hit, most of them became drive-through only, and a lot still are. And if they are open again,
Due to staffing shortages, we've adjusted our operating hours. I don't believe this. I think this is fake. There's no misspellings.
5, 4, 3.
No, this is fake.
1.
This is a fake photo. There's no way they wrote this many words and nothing was spelled wrong. Fake.
only during the day and early evenings, and it's become harder and harder to find a 24-hour drive-through these days. Let's not forget about retail. Another industry hollowed out by the pandemic. Brick and mortar stores had already been suffering, but this was accelerated as most were not deemed essential, and places
killed Bed Bath & Beyond.
Like grocery stores often had to limit the number of customers to come in at a time due to social distancing regulations. And like the restaurants, they faced strong competition from e-commerce. In particular, sites like Amazon, Temu, Shein, and even Walmart heavily invested into the online shopping experience. When you can order almost anything you need from the comfort of your own home and have it delivered to you within the next couple of days,
very true.
Why bother even going out unless you already are out? And once cities opened back up and return to office became a thing for white-collar workers, they were mostly out and about during the day. When your business is already struggling to stay competitive in such an environment, and late night has always seen more demand, cutting hours is a no-brainer. When remote work was more prominent, many folks moved out of their apartments near the job centers and into larger homes in the suburbs, where you could get a little more space at a better price. This devastated many downtowns, which already relied heavily on the foot traffic of office workers during the day, and even
also a big problem. It's like The Walking Dead, right? I mean, they're not gonna do anything. Like, you're not gonna. You just have to walk around, but you don't want to deal with them.
either, right? It's just, it's stressful.
For the after-work happy hour. It was especially bad in San Francisco, but it's a national trend. With this, businesses closed, large chains like Forever 21 and Macy's closed their downtown locations, and this created what some called a doom loop, where the inner city basically died. And with it came increased crime, the cost
This happened in Austin too, by the way.
of living brought homelessness and drug use spiked.
That's what I was talking about.
It was a bad time to be out at night. The urbanist Jane Jacobs wrote in her 1961 book, The Death and Life of Great American Cities, of the concept of eyes on the street, which in a nutshell states that the more people you have going about their lives, working, shopping, frequenting bars and restaurants and everything else, the less likely there is to be crime. She called it national surveillance.
I think that's kind of true. No, I think she's right. People are more likely to do bad shit if they don't think anybody's watching them. Definitely. Yeah, sure.
Jane Jacobs, public safety was not just the responsibility of the police force, but all of us in the community. And by having thriving 24-hour cities, we all acted as informal.
I also think that, by the way, her analysis on this is dated. Because, like, we had a much more culturally homogenous society in 1960 whenever she wrote this book. Whereas now, you have a much more multicultural and divided society, so there's less of an idea of camaraderie and the same type of, like, cultural expectations that something like Japan would.
Keeping an eye on each other.
This is outdated.
And when you remove those eyes from the streets,
Not completely, but partially.
Without the built-in surveillance of a vibrant community, cities and businesses within them rely more and more on heavy-handed methods. The other night, it was around 11:30 p.m., and I wanted to go to Safeway to pick up some groceries. The location I went to
Your powers are mine!
So I stopped in the parking lot and got this footage. And while I was sitting there in my car, getting ready to go in,
what animal does that? See, this is the kind of stuff that, like, if I was, like, you go to jail for this. Straight, you just go to jail. I've had enough of this shit. This is ridiculous. What the fuck are we doing? What the hell are we doing? What the fuck is this? Shit pisses me off. It does. It's outrageous. First card ride? No. Talk about it. They have to, if you get, the thing is that, like if you get caught doing this, I put you on 10 hours of being nice. Of mandatory community service, working at a location like this, pushing carts back and collecting them. That's right. 10 whole hours? That's right. That's the first one. Second one would be like a year in jail.
an extremely loud voice yelled out at me to stop trespassing and that they called the police.
What? What the fuck? Yeah.
Us against the world.
And I get out my camera and I'm just like filming like a shopping cart parking lot. I think, right? And all of a sudden, over the loudspeaker, this voice says, "You are trespassing. Please leave the area. You're being recorded." And I'm like, what the fuck? They just go open.
This is ridiculous that we let this shit happen. It is absolutely ridiculous to let this happen. So exactly like Singapore, the 19th thing is true, so they have to get fined. Yeah, that's what you get. Yeah, police say this is CCP shit. No, it's not. What happens is it's not the government doing this, it's the places. The reason why the companies are doing this is because crime is not being accurately punished. And so there is not a degree of... Like, there's a degree of tension and stress when a person comes and sits in your parking lot that doesn't exist in a society that's of higher trust. And so the problem with this, I don't think is really COVID. I think it is the government's unwillingness to do and take action that creates a high trust society. And the way that you do that is you hold bad actors accountable. And if you don't hold those bad actors accountable, you get bullshit like this.
I was gonna go in there and like actually buy something. That just Proves my point. Things close early. I am fighting every day like they're a criminal. There was no way.
She looks like a Karen was just told to stop trespassing in a parking lot. She wasn't being a Karen. She didn't do anything wrong. The business just wanted to make sure she wasn't there to cause a problem. Exactly. And that wouldn't have happened if there weren't a bunch of other people that were there and they actually were causing problems. That's the point that I'm making. The point that I'm making is that the reaction that she received doesn't exist inside of a microcosm. It exists inside of an apparatus of other problems that are the same thing.
I was gonna shop at that Safeway after that experience. And on the drive home, I was followed by 2 police cars. Simply for minding my own business and staying in my car in the parking lot a little longer than they deemed was acceptable. This criminalization of simply being in a space at night, even during business hours, creates within both law enforcement and the broader culture a perception that nothing worth happening happens after dark. That if you're out late, you must be up to no good. And this obviously is not true. Some people work overnight shifts at hospitals or in warehouses as firefighters or Uber drivers. Work still gets done in the late night hours. And the people who work those shifts deserve to be able to participate in society as much as the next person. And regardless, if you're out at night...
I don't think you can force businesses to be open late at night, but I can sure as fuck complain about it. I can absolutely complain about it, and I will.
Doesn't necessarily mean you're bad. It just means that you like to be out at night. I would settle because it's still kind of light outside. It's like 8:30.
Watch out, they're headed our way! Fields are wrath of the goddess! You're ready for action!
I won't make the
Big
same
mistake.
mistakes again. I finally
Huge mistake.
I should have all.
Never stop.
Where the storm come from, bro?
Never
Try.
stop. If you stop, no. Never stop
Fucked up.
drinking soda.
So funny.
The thing is, a sugar high is bad because you.
Did he also 2 people on 1%?
The solution to that never come. Never stop eating. Eat it non-stop. Just keep going.
It is starting to get dark, and I was like, in the parking lot, and it's at 50 for visiting 7-Eleven. This is against the world. Video recorded. It's like... They really closed the 7-Eleven hall early now. It used to be open 24 hours. I remember coming here, middle of the night, riding my bike. I used to do late night bike rides around the lake here. And yeah, you could go anytime, it would be open. Now it goes to like 9 to 10 p.m.
Ridiculous.
This particular 7-Eleven started closing early for a number of reasons. Crime was a big one. It's a sad fact.
It's because the people that are in the fucking city aren't getting arrested for stealing shit. That's the problem. That's the big issue.
I got the storm back.
Everything
I eventually.
That's it.
Life that robberies do happen more often at night when there are less people around. But this isn't a vibrant, busy urban area with a lot of dense housing nearby. It's not a particularly bad neighborhood either. But pretty much everything within a few blocks closes up at 9, 10, or 11 p.m. at the very least.
They don't want it to be like a PvP area. They don't want to have people running into the store, like 5 guys running into the store with masks and just grabbing and shit away. That's the reason why it's a problem.
It's alright,
It's because these guys never get in trouble.
You don't need to worry. Shark's a fucking stupid character. I can fucking counter it so hard.
Yeah.
Waits fucking 6
My stupid also.
And then he doesn't. It's absolutely useless character.
ChatGPT is their therapist, or they're going to bed.
Nice.
We've become homebodies with infinite options for every aspect of life, from entertainment, shopping, dining, love and romance, culture, and friendship, all in the palm of our hands. There's no incentive to actually get out on the town and do something.
Well, there's no reason to, right? And also, it's because people don't want to. Like, it's a lot easier. The thing is that if
I can't counter the shark now. I will admit that. That's just
because you can go through more people faster. Now,
obviously you might have like a higher success rate IRL. I mean, I can't really speak to this, but I've heard that's what's happened. But yeah, it's just simply more efficient. It's also because shit's expensive, man. Yeah, and that's also another thing is that, like, if you're a guy, why do you want to go out to a bar and go pay for fucking, like, how much is a drink at whatever bar you guys go to? Just your average rum and coke, Jim Beam, like anything like that. Is it $15? That's insane. It's an insane amount of money. Of course people aren't going to do that.
People aren't out. The businesses don't have a reason to stay open. It's cultural as much as it is economic. And if you're going to bed at 10 p.m., why would you want to get a job working at 7-Eleven overnight? Businesses have had troubles staffing late-night shifts in recent years, which in turn leads to late-night hours being cut. Public transit in most cities has reduced or even no service hours after dark. And when less people are taking that transit...
And that's another reason. It's because you know what these places are? There are hostile NPCs that inhabit these areas, and there are rare spawns that will come in here and they will attack you. That's the reason, is people see these videos of like these subway psychos and they're like, well, I don't want to take this late at night where it's just me and this other guy on the train together, because what if he thinks that he wants to eat me? Hyper spawns? Yeah, no, there's a lot of them. You really think that I don't see you? You really think that I don't notice? What an insult to my intelligence of being on the internet for 25 years that you think that you can go and put shit like this in my chat and I wouldn't notice. That's right. You're done. You're done. You can't do that.
Time to cut the budget. Reducing or eliminating late night service seems like the least harmful option. When we treat the people who inhabit the night like criminals, it only makes
the reason why they're treating them like criminals is because there's a lot of fucking criminals out there and nothing happens to them. Really, that's the reason why. It's not like they're doing this for no reason. What do you think? They like having jewel cases on everything, so you have to fucking talk to a fucking associate so you can get your toothpaste? Fuck no, they don't want to do that. That's a waste of their time and money. It's a waste of everything. The only reason why they do it is because they don't want to have their shit stolen.
It's safe for criminals. And to a cop or a security camera, when you treat just existing outside after dark as if it is a crime, you're gonna see a lot more crime. It's all a self-reinforcing cycle.
Was that from Undertale?
The other night, I was driving around town, and I came upon a gas station, a typical Chevron. And when I went to fill up my tank, I realized that not even just the store was shut, but the pumps themselves were disabled after 7 p.m. Even though this particular gas...
This is some straight up... This is PvP server behavior.
And the younger generations are going out less, drinking less, and clubbing less.
They don't have money. They don't have money, and also getting drunk is less entertaining when everybody has a camera and then you get fired from your job, or, you know, like inappropriately hitting on somebody at a bar. Like, this stuff probably happened all the time in 1985, but it wasn't recorded, so it didn't matter. So now, because like all of this is being recorded, people don't want to be part of that. Voluntary surveillance state? No, I'm being serious about that.
And that's not all bad, but the nighttime doesn't have to be scary or full of crime. We need viable late night options beyond just nightclubs, liquor stores, drive-thrus, and bars. We need late night libraries, cafes, restaurants, and shopping malls. Will we get them? Not if we don't use them. We need safer streets, and that doesn't always come from just putting up security cameras, increasing police patrols, and criminalizing everything.
Oh, he's just looking at it. God damn.
It comes from a community that cares for each other and keeps each other accountable to one another, something that our modern tech-driven culture has seemed to have lost. We treat each other and the space we live in like it's disposable. So maybe this is what we wanted all along. No more awkward small talk with a cashier or 3 a.m. pizza run. Just calm and quiet inside, in bed early, checking our notifications until we crash out alone once again.
Well, I feel like crashing out alone is definitely a multi-purposed term at that point.
I like this video. I thought this is a really nice video that she put together. Cities by Diana. Yeah, it's a topic that I care a lot about because I stay up pretty late at night. Like, usually what I do is I'm usually awake until like 3 to 4 to 5 a.m. and then I'll wake up at like 10 to 11. That's generally what I do. She's complaining about branches being thrown in the street. Who cares? You throw a branch in the street? Jail. Immediate jail. What are you doing throwing sticks in the street for, bitch? What the fuck is wrong with you? What are we doing all this bullshit for? What are we fucking around with a clown for? Nope. Yep, no second chances. No, you do get a second chance. That way we can arrest you twice. And that's degenerate behavior. Yeah, exactly. And yeah, well, if it's a nice stick. No, I thought this is a really good video. I agree with a lot of what she's saying. I think that, like, again, it's the treating everybody like a criminal. I do think that that's extremely... Like, I'm surprised she didn't talk about the Juul cases, because I think that this isn't really something that's happened exclusively in the nightlife, but I think that we've increasingly had a lower and lower trust society because of, for whatever reasons, politicians' inability or unwillingness to enforce the law. And because of that, that's how you get food deserts. That's how you get, businesses closing. And I think this is a huge problem, because the big issue with this is that the people that are the biggest victims of these stores closing, like the CVS closes because people steal, if he's right, you're wrong. What is this here? Nux replied about the brothel. I saw you made the comment the first time. I wasn't even talking about that. I don't even know why you're bringing that up. Anyway, so... in general, how long have you been in jail as a teenager if you're living under your own laws? I would have never, 0 days, because I would have never done anything wrong. The reason why people commit crime is because they think they can get away with it. Why do you think people are always committing crime wearing masks? Why do you think they're committing crime using burner phones, etc.? I would never, and you guys know this in high school. How many of you guys had a class in high school where every single person were let me tell you, if anybody can relate to this story, okay? I had a class, it was not even in the fucking building, okay? It was in a portable near the fucking parking lot. And it was history class with the football coach who teaches us every day about how his father beat the Nazis in World War II. Every fucking day. That was it. That's all it was. And you had every problem boy in the entire school. You had the kids that were going around, smoking weed, doing drugs, talking back to the teachers, causing all kinds of problems. But the moment that they got into that portable, it was yes, sir, no, sir. Do you need me to help you pass around the book, sir? And there were no problems at all. And you know why? It's because they knew that he wouldn't put up with their shit. Instantaneously, if there were any even slight fuck-ups, you're done, you're out, you're finished. And that's what it was. Everybody loves the coach. Yeah, exactly. They'll be held accountable. Yes. And because respect, it's more than respect. It's what the lack of respect, it's the outcome of the lack of respect is what really gets people to watch out for it. Again, like I had one time, there was this kid that was in 11th grade, and he was like fucking 18 or something like that. And he was in like 9th grade biology. And he walked over and he had like a pass, like a hall slip, and he slapped it on the teacher's chest like this. And the teacher walked over to him, and this teacher also was like a 6'5" former football player. And this kid was pretty tall too. He's about as tall as I am. So, a little bit under 6'5". And he leans over and he puts his hand on the kid's desk, closer to like where the kid is sitting. And he says, if you ever do that again, I'm going to beat the fucking shit out of you in front of the entire class, and it's going to be okay because you touched me first, and that's considered assault. So if you ever do anything bad, and this is in front of the entire fucking class. And like 5'6", yeah. And he's sitting there, and he's like, oh.
never another problem from that kid for the entire rest of the semester. He never got up. He was never talking to people during the lecture. He always had his book open. And the thing is also, by the way, this is a good thing because that guy needs another older guy to keep him in check. That's the way it works. Exactly. I had no dad. Yeah, exactly. This is, and it's not that it's a bad thing. It's a good thing. It's like, yeah, there it is. Like, okay, listen, bro, like you want to go and fuck around. That's what's going to happen. W teacher. Exactly. That's how you train the young pups. Yeah, and the thing is, if you've ever dealt with young guys, you know that there's some of them that will only respond to a mutual level of aggression or an over-aggression because they think like, oh, I'm just going to do whatever I want. And then the moment that you're like, no, you not, and that would be it, right? You'd be totally finished. It wouldn't be any problem at all. And so then we'd have less crime. Yeah, exactly, right? And but threats of violence, really the way to go about teaching them to act proper. Absolutely it is. So anyway, that's the way I look at it. That's how I see it. I do really like the video. Let me go back actually. I'll link you guys the video one more time. Make sure to give it a like. I did really like this video a lot. I saw this. Oh boy, oh boy. Why is it a scam? Well, so basically that's what the video exists. That's why you're watching the video. If you knew why it was a scam, you wouldn't need to watch the video, right? Because like you just like think about this for 3 seconds, huh?
By now, you've probably heard about Honey.
I have.
You know, the browser extension that saves you money.
Do you have Honey installed?
What's Honey?
Oh, no.
Honey.
Honey is a free browser extension.
Free browser extension.
Free browser extension.
Free browser extension.
That automatically applies coupon codes when you check out online.
Free money, basically.
It's literally free money.
It doesn't make sense to not be using this.
So what's the catch?
There is no catch.
Join Honey. Join Honey. Join Honey.
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 Honey. Honey. Honey.
Honey. Honey. Honey. Honey. Honey.
Join Honey.
Yeah,
Yeah, I hate to break it to you, but your favorite influencers sold you a lie. Honey is
Ooh, that's never happened before. We've never had a situation like this in the past. This is the first time.
scam, and the majority of claims promoted by those influencers aren't even remotely true. But it gets worse. Honey hasn't just been scamming you, the consumer. They've also been stealing money from influencers,
I've seen
including
this.
the very ones they paid to promote their product. And I'm not just talking about a few bucks here. I believe the scam has likely cost content creators millions of dollars. Sound crazy?
Probably true.
I didn't believe it at first either, until I experienced it myself firsthand. In fact, I'm confident this might just be the biggest influencer scam of all time.
So far.
Which is insane, considering Honey is owned and run by PayPal, who purchased this company for $4 billion.
That's a lot of money.
This three-part series is the result of a multi-year investigation where I believe I've uncovered signs of advertising fraud, affiliate fraud, the illegal collection of personal data, deception, lies.
What? All over some coupons? How does something like this happen? It's insane.
Extortion, the list goes on. I've reviewed hundreds of documents, adverts, sponsorships. I've reviewed emails between Honey and merchants, interviewed victims. Believe me, this runs deep. Now, I want to be clear. The views, allegations, and conclusions expressed in this series are my opinions, based on evidence I have gathered, which will be shared throughout. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Honey Trap.
Good one. What the fuck is this, man? The Coupon Mafia?
Now, I know what you're thinking. It's a free browser extension. How bad could it be? Well, trust me, it's far more sinister than you might think. You know what they say, if a product's free, it's likely you're the product. And as you'll find out later in this investigation, that remains true for PayPal Honey. Now, like most people, I too fell for the lies. I mean, what's not to love about a free browser extension that saves you money? It's a compelling product. And with the endorsement from what feels like every single popular influencer on YouTube,
I think that you should never expect, like, because this is the same thing with like Google. I mean, you should never listen to what a content creator is saying and then just take their word on it.
It's the same as anything else. It's not like you should just like, oh, well, Mr. Beast looked into this, so I know it's safe. Never do that. And it's not about Mr. Beast being bad. It's about a person is never able to like evaluate every outcome and every variable, right? That's just the way it is. They're humans too. Yeah. And also like there are cases that like I was involved in something like this. I can't really get into specifics, where basically there was things found out about it that were like problematic that I had no awareness of at the time. And so it's in sometimes like not even the fault of the content creators. It's just what happens.
It's no wonder millions of people downloaded it. Ironically, the very influencers promoting Honey seemingly had no idea the company was quietly picking money out of their very own pockets. Well, at least one of them realized, but we'll get to that later. So let me show you how Honey's been stealing money from influencers. So let's say
this
you're
is
watching
the part
a
I've
video
seen. Okay, yeah, this is good.
on YouTube. If you're into tech like me,
Look at
maybe
this.
you're watching a Linus Tech Tips video. Linus tells you about this free browser
Yeah.
extension that saves you money online. You install it in 2 clicks, and boom, you have Honey.
Easy.
Perfect timing, because it just so happens you're looking to buy a new CPU for your computer.
Wow, how
You come
convenient.
across another Linus Tech Tips video, and after watching, you're convinced you should buy the one recommended in his video.
Convenient
So
again.
you scroll down and find Linus's affiliate link to that product.
Naturally.
Now, for those of you who don't know, when you click an affiliate link and buy something, the influencer who promoted the product earns a commission for referring you to that store. So you
This is usually true. It's not always true. Like, but yeah, that's accurate.
add the product to your cart, get to the checkout
They
page.
might not be paid
and
per
hello,
sale, but they
Honey
get paid
says they
for
found you
referral.
10 coupon codes. Sweet. You click apply discounts and Honey gets to work.
Right.
But unfortunately, none of the coupon codes worked. Doesn't matter though,
Oh.
because as Honey has promised us for years, that means we know we've got the best deal.
That's
So you
convenient.
complete your purchase, you're happy, your new CPU's on the
Right.
way, Linus is happy, he's getting his commission, everyone's happy.
But he doesn't.
Right? Well, let's quickly rewind and see
This
what was
is cute.
happening behind the scenes.
Look at this.
You see, after clicking Linus's affiliate link, you'll notice in the URL,
Yeah.
there's a tracking tag labeled Short Circuit. That's a reference to one of Linus's YouTube channels. And this tracking tag is how Newegg knows who to pay a commission to.
Yes.
We can also see that this tracking tag has been saved on my browser in the form of a cookie that will expire in 30 days. That way, if we only decide to complete the purchase a few days later, Linus will still be credited the sale. It's kind of like when you're at a department store buying a TV, and the salesman who helped you gives you a referral card or a receipt with their name on it, so when you eventually get to the checkout counter, the clerk knows which salesman to award the sale to.
Of course.
You can think of affiliate cookies as a digital version of that. So what happened when we got to the checkout page? Well, once Honey popped up, watch what happened to Linus's affiliate cookie after we clicked apply discounts. You see that?
They deleted. They take the affiliate link away from the creator that's sponsoring them. So basically, they're paying creators to cuck themselves out of referral codes. Now, I don't know, like, I do think this is intentional. And the reason why I think it's intentional is because if it just deleted it, I would think that it's not intentional, it's just bad coding. But the fact that it replaces it with their own,
Honey came in, removed Linus's affiliate cookie, and replaced it with their own, claiming
that's what's crazy. It's like, yeah, if it just replaced it, or sorry, if it just got rid of it, I'd be like, yeah, that sucks. I need to fix that. But this is, man, this is a real coincidence, isn't it?
credit for the sale and pocketing the commission
How did that
money
happen?
for themselves. Yeah. Now, if we quickly go back again, we can see what's causing this to happen. After clicking apply discounts, what you'll notice is that in the top left corner of your browser, Honey discreetly opens a small new tab, which acts like a simulated referral click, as
Yeah.
if they were the ones to refer you to the website, even though
surely just a coincidence, right? Surely. It's illegal, probably? I don't
you're
know.
already on the website and at the checkout page.
Clever
Once
use
that
of
page is
browser
finished
mechanics?
loading and
Yeah.
has stuffed PayPal's affiliate cookie, the tab automatically closes,
Wow.
leaving you blissfully unaware that anything ever happened.
That's crazy.
It's very sneaky. Now, when I first discovered this was happening, I thought, there's no way. Why would all these high-profile influencers be promoting a company that is actively poaching their affiliate commissions? It It didn't make any sense. So to make sure I wasn't going crazy, I went on a honey testing spree, clicking one affiliate link after another, and it kept happening. But
the reason why probably is because the influencers and the people that are putting out the videos don't actually care about the performance of the affiliate links, and the majority of their money comes from a minimum guarantee for the ad serve and not necessarily from the affiliate links. So it's like that's money on the top and it's an afterthought. So like, for example, like if you're Charlie, like you're making tons of money already. Okay, I made, you know, $3,000 off this instead of, you know, $10,000 off of this. Like, you're not going to see that in the same way that, you know, if they're paying him a baseline of like, let's say 50K, right? And so that's the reason why they're doing it. They're doing it because they don't even know, because the amount of money is too small. It's not relevant. It's like 10% of your Amazon sale. Yeah. So like for me, for example, I wouldn't really think this is a big deal, right? I mean, it's bad. I wouldn't want this to happen, but at the end of the day, I'd still be making more money.
After all those tests, I scoured the internet to see if anyone was talking about this and found nothing. Okay, there was this one debate about it on the Y Combinator forum,
right?
But nothing concrete. Besides that, virtually nobody was talking about this, adding fuel to my doubt. So I figured, screw it. I'll reach out to Honey and ask them directly. And sure enough, they came back to me with the following. If Honey is activated and is the last program used while shopping on a site, it is likely Honey will receive credit for the purchase. I was right.
That's crazy. Wow. How about that? They just say it? They don't even try to deny it? I'm thinking about like the ethical ramifications of them doing it. Is it unethical for them to do it if they're not eating somebody else's referral code? I don't think so. I'm thinking, yeah, it's fine. Yeah, it's unethical, but why? Why is it unethical? So if by the nature of you using the service to get a better deal, if you did that and you used the service and you did get a better deal, theoretically, right? Or at least you used the service to check whether you got a better deal, and it did not come as any additional cost to you, I would view using their affiliate link as a form of consideration. Doing it without telling you? You're screwing your partners? Okay, well, anyway, that's where I'm at right now.
Just like that, my investigation into Honey began. Now, some might consider what PayPal's doing here dirty or highly unethical, but personally, I can't see how it's anything short of fraud. I mean, just imagine something like this happening in a real-world scenario. Let's say you're at a department store looking to buy a new TV. A salesman spends time running you through your options. You decide to buy, he gives you his referral card, you get to the checkout, and right as you're about to pay, a sleazy salesman pops up going, "Hey, should I check if I have any coupon codes for you?" Naturally, you say sure. He snatches your referral card without you ever noticing.
Bro. This fucking picture. Oh my god.
You ever noticing? Looks for coupons, says, sorry, no luck this time.
It does.
But instead of handing back the original referral card, he hands back his own.
Right.
PayPal didn't refer the customer to the store. They didn't promote any of the products. The salesman did that. PayPal provided absolutely zero value to the customer, yet they were rewarded for the sale. But because this is all happening online, buried behind clicks and cookies and tracking data, there's little to no transparency that this is ever happening. Okay, but what if Honey had found a working coupon code? Would that make it okay for them to claim the commission? Honestly, no, I don't think so. The fact remains that Honey didn't refer the customer.
Would it make them... It's like a yes and no answer. I feel like... I don't know. That's a hard one. Yeah, it's a really hard one.
Nor did they promote the product. Look, don't get me wrong, I'm a consumer myself. saving money matters, especially when money's
Sure.
tight. But this scam doesn't just affect wealthy influencers. There are hundreds of thousands of small creators, bloggers, artists who rely on affiliate commissions to support their craft. Sure, you
That's a
could
good
argue
point.
that Honey may have convinced the consumer to complete the purchase by providing a discount. But let's be real, if you're already at the checkout with your items in your cart, you already have a high intent to purchase. And again, this would never fly in a real life sales environment. No department store is going to allow a salesman
I think this is a great argument that he's using, is that if you applied this to any real life situation, it would immediately be seen as terrible and predatory. So if you look at it inside of this situation, it is also terrible and predatory. Yeah, that's a good point.
hang out at the checkout counter, casually handing out coupon codes while simultaneously stealing commissions from the other sales reps.
Yeah.
So why are we allowing a corporate giant like PayPal to do it on the internet? Now, believe it or
People
not,
don't
this
know.
first example I just showed you with Linus is just one of 3 scenarios in which Honey poaches affiliate commissions, and the next scenarios are even worse. But before I show you how bad scenario 2 is, it's important you understand the fundamental system Honey is exploiting. You see, in affiliate marketing, there's this thing called last click attribution, which basically means last
person,
click
yeah.
wins. For example, you might click on a shoe blogger's affiliate link for a pair of Nikes, but you don't buy right away. Later, you click on a YouTuber's link for the same shoes and complete the purchase. In this scenario, the YouTuber gets the commission and the blogger gets nothing. There are other models like first click, where the blogger would win the commission, or dynamic click.
In my opinion, I think last click makes a lot of sense. I think it makes more sense than first click or dynamic click, because the last click is probably the most likely to be instrumental on the sale itself. Yeah, like I think that's fair.
Where the commission is shared. But the industry went with last click because while it's not always the fairest, it's the easiest to implement. Therefore, it became the industry standard.
I can't think
now,
of
when
anything
it's
that's
blogger
more fair.
versus YouTuber for a sale, honestly, I'd say last click is usually fair. But when it's anyone versus Honey, there's no real competition. Honey
Yeah,
pops
that's
up.
the issue, right? Is that like in this theoretical situation, last click makes sense, but when Honey does it, it doesn't. It's basically like in a video game, if like you're waiting to, like I remember this is what would happen in like PUBG, is that like you would go and like you drop somewhere and then somebody else would drop in the same place and they would just wait for you to loot everything. And then the moment that you walked out of the building, they would shoot you in the back of the head and then take all the stuff that you looted. Like, and it's like, okay, well, this sucks. This is fucking annoying, right? I spent all this time, you know, looting all these rooms, putting all this stuff on, you know, putting all these attachments in my gun. Then this other guy just shoots me in the back of the head, and now he gets to play the game with all my loot, right? And so, yes, I could easily see this being ridiculous. Yeah, pirates, I guess so.
Right at the end of your purchasing journey, virtually
last turn,
guaranteeing they'll win that last click. They of course know this and do anything they can to get that last click,
Of course.
even when there's no coupon codes to offer. Which brings us to scenario 2. Honey Gold, which is now called PayPal Rewards.
Okay.
Here's how it works. When you get to the checkout and Honey Gold is available, Honey pops up and is essentially saying, hey you, consumer, click this button here so PayPal can claim the commission for the sale, and we'll share a portion of that commission money with you in the form of points. It's basically
I don't see that being bad.
a lame cashback game. And it's genius because if there are no coupons to offer, but the store is participating in Honey Gold, it gives Honey another reason to get that last click. How can YouTubers, bloggers, or any other type of affiliate fairly compete against this type of mechanism? Of course the consumer's gonna click, and of course they're going to win the sale. Now this got me thinking, how much of their commission are they actually sharing with users? Well, to find out, I decided to put Honey Gold to the test. So I look for any
Let me guess, less than 10%. That's my guess.
website where Honey Gold was offered and found it on NordVPN. And no, this is not a sneaky sponsorship. So I signed up for NordVPN's affiliate program, which offers 40% commission on successful referrals. After getting approved into the program, I received a custom affiliate link for my YouTube channel. Using this link, I made 2 separate purchases. For the first, I activated Honey Gold, and sure enough, you can see my affiliate cookie was replaced with Honey's. And for the second, I didn't activate Honey Gold. As expected, I was awarded a $35 commission for the sale where Honey Gold wasn't activated.
Wow.
And received nothing when Honey Gold was activated. For the first time...
So he made his own affiliate code and then he bought it from himself to see what the difference would be? That's good. That's real good. $35.
I experienced honey poaching my own affiliate commission. So how much of my stolen $35 commission did PayPal sharers cash back
$2.
my honey account?
$2.
AKA the consumer. Brace yourselves, 89 points, which is equivalent to 89 cents.
Okay, that's worse than I... Oh, wow.
Longtime workers who had built relationships with the owners of these different businesses. This is a marijuana.
The one guy that has not let me down even once is Baldy. Bro, not even once.
The largest marijuana operation in California. Does that directive apply to this place?
Well, first of all, the president has been clear and consistent in saying that he's going to fight labor trafficking and child trafficking. And this marijuana plantation is a clear-cut example of labor trafficking and child trafficking, which are heinous crimes. Additionally, I don't know of anybody except the governor of California who would argue that a marijuana plantation is an essential component of America's food supply chain. Everywhere you look in California...
I don't even care that they're growing weed. I just care that they're having kids there. Why are there 8 unaccompanied minors on a weed farm? That seems like a problem, doesn't it? I don't know. Run them over? No, as I've already given my opinion about the rocks and everything.
You see industrial child exploitation on a massive scale, an industrial scale. There are likely...
Stephen Miller is the Grand Inquisitor. Been waiting on this for a while.
Hundreds of thousands of children in California who are being exploited for their labor or sexual...
Little fun fact about this guy. In high school, his high school quote was a quote from Teddy Roosevelt about how no man can be an American if he has any allegiance to any other country other than America.
Exploited as part of sex trafficking.
Yeah.
This administration is liberating these children and helping reunify them with their parents back in their home country. What the Biden administration did with respect to child trafficking is one of the great crimes in human history. Over 500,000 children were illegally trafficked into the country under the previous administration. When we've gone and looked for these children, Martha, the addresses that the U.S. government provided, in other words, the records that the government kept under Joe Biden, are all fake. Nobody ever checked if the addresses were real. Nobody ever checked if the sponsors were...
Why does nobody go to jail for this then? Like, I mean, this is like, it's like criminal negligence, isn't it? I mean, it has to be.
Real. Nobody ever checked if they were really even relatives or parents or relations or safe. We recently recovered a young illegal alien, for example, who had been raped repeatedly by the adult male that the Biden administration handed to her. She was under...
Wow, what a surprise. Who could have ever guessed that?
Constant video surveillance and was coached exactly what to say if an officer ever knocked on her door so that she would never be rescued. We have example after example. We go to homes, 13, 14, 15-year-old children who are raped on a daily basis because the Biden administration, because the Democrat Party chose to traffic them into this country. So we will be unrelenting in our effort to free these kids. To traffic on a daily basis because the Biden administration video surveillance and was coached exactly what to say if an officer ever knocked on her door so that she would never be rescued. We have example after example. We go to homes, 13, 14, 15-year-old children who are raped on a daily basis because the Biden administration, because the Democrat Party chose to traffic them into this country. So we will be unrelenting in our effort to free these kids.
Yeah,
I think that after the Epstein thing, I know Steven hasn't let me down yet, but who exactly was ignoring all of this stuff and letting this happen? Because there had to be a person at the government that was letting this happen, right? Like a clerk, a decision maker, some bureaucrat. There's a name that's attached to this because every action inside of the government is logged for what you do. Like, for example, at the IRS, whenever I work there, every single process of the entire tax form processing like cycle system was documented and assigned to an individual. This is the way that the government works. This is the way that almost every sort of company works. There had to have been people that ignored this. Where are they? Where are they? Yeah. That's the question. There's a chain of command at the top. Then go get them.
This is a huge story, and the Biden administration tried to push them out of these holding facilities at the border and into the arms of people who were picking them up. There were some cases where one person picked up 150 children. So I doubt very much that was their uncle.
They were not all their children.
Let me just bring this to your attention, Stephen. This is Gavin Newsom's post from last night. I want to show you what Gavin Newsom said, and then we want to do the Karen Bass statement as well. So he posted this last night. Kids running from tear gas, crying on the phone because their mother was just taken from the fields. Trump calls me new scum, but he's the real scum.
Why are the kids on the fields? How'd they get there?
And then he goes on to say, of course, I condemn any assault on law enforcement. You
shit
poster. Now do Jan 6. This is coming from...
The people in January 6 were in jail for 5 fucking years. Or 4 fucking years. It's not like they just didn't have anything happen. Like, and also, by the way, if you committed the crimes that the people that got put in jail for January 6 for, assault on a police officer, destruction of federal property, do you know what that is here, at least in Texas? 3 to 5. It is. How do I know that? Because I know people that have been charged for that. It's 3 to 5 years.
From Governor Newsom. And Jimmy Gomez, a Democrat in California, at midnight last night, posted how many MS-13 gang members are waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning to pick
They all got pardoned, though, so why? They got pardoned after serving a sentence that would be equivalent to the sentence that they would have served if they had been convicted for the crime that they theoretically committed. I don't even support pardoning the January 6 rioters. Well, I support pardoning 90% of them, but not the 10% that were bad actors. And I think that Trump made a mistake by doing that. I think it was stupid. I'm not trying to support this, but I'm trying to add in that let's not act like this was a completely invalid action. He didn't pardon all of them. Some of them he pardoned. I don't think he should have.
Oh, yeah, 0. Your reaction to those?
Look, California and Los Angeles are waging insurrection against the federal government.
That's a fact.
They are protecting those who traffic in the suffering of children. And by the way, do you know why so many of these unaccompanied alien minors are being put to work in slave wages and slave conditions all across California to pay off their cartel debts? The Democrat Party is funneling these profits from rape, profits from exploitation, and yes, profits from murder, into the hands of the cartels that control the north of Mexico, that assassinate politicians, that assassinate judges, that assassinate women and children, and that smuggle fentanyl into our country. From rape, profits from exploitation, and yes, profits from murder, into the hands of the cartels that control the north of Mexico, that assassinate politicians, that assassinate judges, that assassinate women and children, and that smuggle fentanyl into our country. Cartels are waging war against America, and their allies are the Democrat Party. And their allies are the Democrat politicians that are incentivizing these migrant mobs to try to murder our ICE officers in cold blood. I never thought we would ever see the day when Democrats...
Yeah. Yep.
Politicians would use language and use rhetoric that would encourage illegal aliens and radical left nonprofits to try to murder ICE officers. But that's where we are right now. And what we are seeing done to this country is the mass theft of wages from the middle class to the migrant mobs. And that has to stop.
It'll be interesting to see if the cartels are involved in any of this protest action. We don't know that yet. But I want to play this from Karen Bass, the Los Angeles mayor.
The funniest thing about the cartels is that the only cartel, as far as I know, the only cartel member who was actually on record talking about Trump said that they respected him because he was doing what was best for his country. Yeah, like, well, what would you say to Donald Trump? Respect. Like... Because they get it. Like, they know, obviously, like, yeah, I remember that exactly. Yeah. They don't think they want to mess with Trump? Well, no, it's not that they don't want to mess with him. It's that they understand, like, the guys that are running these cartels aren't dumb. They're not dumb people. They're smart guys. They're reasonable, intelligent, and they're calculated. They can understand why Trump is doing it, and and the reason why is because they understand the advantage that they're gaining over the United States. Yeah, they're smart as fuck. And also, by the way, this is true with any of these terrorist organizations. Like, you remember, like, that Twitcher terrorist thing? Those guys were really well-spoken. They were well-educated, intelligent people. Don't go and think that these are just a bunch of savages that are running this shit. No, these people are smart. They know what the hell they're doing. They're educated, they're measured, and they're intelligent. Now, that doesn't mean that, you know, every person in the organization is, but it means that their leadership is. Absolutely they are. Some are ex-military? Yeah. A lot were educated in the West? Yeah.
Who is discussing offering cash assistance from the state to migrants who are impacted by these raids. Here's what she just said a short time ago.
We also are going to have a reinstitution of the Angelino card, something that Mayor Garcetti started during COVID, that will actually provide cash assistance to people. Because, you know, you have people who don't want to leave their homes, who are not going to work, and they are in need of cash.
Stephen, your reaction to that suggestion?
It is a crime to furnish money to criminal aliens to facilitate their evasion of federal law enforcement officers. You have illegal aliens, for example, who've been ordered removed by an immigration judge, who've received, frankly, an obscene amount of process over a period of years, more than any American citizen ever gets, that are defying that removal order, that are hiding out from ICE, and then you have the mayor of Los Angeles paying them to evade law enforcement. That's a crime. And again, another example of how...
It's a crime, then why aren't they in jail? Then put them in jail. Do it. Then arrest her. Yeah. I think that if Donald Trump arrested Gavin Newsom and this mayor of Los Angeles, I'm not even kidding you, I think it would undo the Epstein stuff. I think people would stop giving a fuck about it because it would be exactly what a lot of his voters want. It probably would. I'm being serious. That would be news? Yes, that would be insane. If he arrested them and put them in jail.
The city government of Los Angeles is waging a campaign of insurrection against the federal government. Let's be very clear. What would Los Angeles look like without illegal aliens? Here's what it would look like. You would be able to see a doctor in the emergency room right away, no wait time, no problem. Your kids would go to a public school that had more money than they know what to do with. Classrooms would be half the size. Students who had special needs would get all the attention that they needed. there would be no violent transnational gangs. There would be no cartels. There would be no Mexican mafia. There would be no Sureños. There would be no MS-13. There would be no TDA. You would be living in a city that would be safe, that would be clean. There would be no fentanyl. There would be no drug dens. That could be the future Los Angeles could have.
Nothing bad
but the leaders in Los Angeles have formed an alliance with the cartels and the criminal aliens.
All right, Stephen Miller from the White House, thank you very much. Once again, we just want to make this point that these kinds of operations were not met with violence in prior administrations. So you have a very different dynamic that is going on here and a lot of dangerous situations that are resulting because of it. Stephen, thank you very much. Good to see you. Thanks, Stephen.
Hey, Sean Hannity here.
Yeah, he cooked. I told you, bro. Baldy has not let me down yet. Of all the people, like, whenever I knew this guy was serious is whenever he brought up 7-Eleven and Home Depot. I said, oh, wow. Okay, so he's in it for the love of the game. This isn't just, yeah, bro, like, yeah, he knows. Yeah, he knows exactly, like, who says that? So DOJ released footage Epstein was edited with Adobe Premiere Pro and stitched from 2 clips.
The raw Epstein footage was modified according to its metadata, despite Dan Bongino previously saying that they would release the original footage so you wouldn't think there were shenanigans.
There's video. We are working on cleaning it up to make sure you have an enhanced, and we're going to give the original so you don't think there were any shenanigans.
Well, unfortunately, that's not what we got. Even the raw video, the original video, was put into Adobe Premiere Pro. This is a scoop from Wired. Quote, metadata shows the FBI's raw Jeffrey Epstein prison video was likely modified. And basically, they pulled the metadata and showed that the footage appears to be assembled from at least 2 source clips, saved multiple times, exported, and then uploaded to the DOJ's website, where it was presented as raw footage, which technically it is not. Now, I pulled the EXIF data myself. This is what it looks like. You can see that there's these ingredients file path here, where you can see 4 different files. 2 of them are just identical. So 2 unique files here.
I'd only accept this if it was to compress the file. Well, here's the reality is that a lot of these things they can sometimes make sense because the file type would not be something that they can upload, and they are re-uploading it in a better file type or with a different type of resolution. And so, like, there are, raw data is huge. Yeah, exactly. So, like, there are reasons for that. Again, it's another point on the graph. Exactly.
Stitched together is the most charitable interpretation. But look, the stunning incompetence, if that's what this is kind of hard to take. Just over and over, they sort of hype up what they have and then deliver something different in a meaningful way. I mean, you cannot say, hey, we're going to give you original footage so you don't think there are shenanigans, and then you splice together 2 clips in Premiere Pro. I mean, yes, maybe you didn't do anything with it, but it kind of ruins the whole chain of evidence. Wired actually quotes a professor of UC Berkeley whose research focuses on digital forensics. He has testified in numerous court cases, and he says, if a lawyer brought me this file and asked if it was suitable for court, I'd say no. Go back to the source, do it right. Do a direct export from the original system, no monkey business. So that kind of puts it all together. I mean, maybe this is all charitably just incompetence. Charitably, it was just...
I think this is the problem. The problem is that there have been so many of these things that have happened at the same time and in a row that it's very hard to say that any of this was a coincidence when the coincidences just keep happening over and over and over. I mean, there's just too many fucking coincidences, man.
Hey, there was a minute at night missing because it's an old analog video system and there were 2 different files. They spliced it together. But even that was done horribly in the worst possible way. For instance, the video aspect ratio suddenly shifts as the tape changes over or whatever they claim. Yeah. You can see that right here. There's like a sudden shift in the video. I have not changed this video in any way. I have it in the Premiere Pro timeline, which I guess they had as well. So this is as intended. So there's this just weird shifts in the footage. I mean, this was done in actually a very sloppy way after they explicitly talked about needing to do it in the right way.
He's reaching. I think that all of these things can be explained, but here's the problem, is that this is the third or fourth video he's made about this. How many coincidences are you going to have that all align with the same outcome before you think to yourself, maybe that's the outcome? How's he reaching? Well, let me explain. So this is pretty common in like video editing, that they probably just resized it inside of Adobe Premiere Pro because they were putting all of the videos together. Because with multiple, in a lot of video software, like if you look at, for example, this says 11:58 p.m. So oftentimes videos will cut at a certain period of time to create another file. Because obviously, like, you can't just make this infinitely long file. And so the file will stop at a certain point. Like on Twitch, for example, if somebody's doing a 24-hour stream, like an ongoing subathon, you'll notice that their streams are 48 hours every single time. Here, I'll give you a direct example right now. So if I look at the Twitch tracker for my 24/7 channel, you'll see that a lot of my streams are exactly 48 hours. Why are all of my streams 48 hours? Well, it's because that's the amount of time that somebody can actually go and watch the, and it can hold data for. But would the aspect ratio change? Yes, it would, and let me explain why. It's because they could have done a bad job with it. So, for example, they're taking the aspect ratio, and you can see these black bars. The aspect ratio does not match the editing area for the window that they're editing the video in. So basically, they're putting the video, if I can explain it like this, because I've done video editing, I know how this works. You take a video, and it's like an old World of Warcraft video, and it's 4:3. So you take this video, and you put it in there, and it looks like this. But then you have a second video that you're putting in as well, and then the second video is like this. Because you resized the original file incorrectly, because you did a bad job. As a video editor, Zach is right. Yes, I've edited videos. I know this. Now, every system is different, and I don't know how this system works, and maybe in this system, this problem isn't relevant. They're hiding something. Here's the problem. All I'm saying, you guys, when you're a hammer, every problem looks like a nail. You don't have to be a hammer. You have to look at data, and you should always apply what I believe to be the null hypothesis of the scientific method. You assume that what you believe is not true, and you work backwards to find out that it is true. You think of plausible deniability, you think of other reasons why things could occur, and that helps you arrive at the truth more effectively than beginning at your answer. But the footage is not raw. The footage is not raw. It is not raw, almost guaranteed. Well, by definition, it's not raw because it was taken through Adobe Premiere. If it was raw, it would be the direct file from the video.
So this is as intended. So there's this just weird shifts in the footage. I mean, this was done in actually a very sloppy way after they explicitly talked about needing to do it in the right way so the American public could rely on it.
I'm not going to withhold information from the American public ever, but I'm also not going to rush to get it out there in a format in which they can't rely on it.
Except that's exactly what they did. The promises that were made are just consistently not kept. When you go on Fox News and say you're gonna do it right, you're gonna give us the original video so we don't think there are shenanigans, and then you do this, yes, we can interpret you charitably, but it leaves room for doubt. It's not only the case.
It does leave room for doubt. And again, the problem is that there are so many, and this goes back to what I said, there are so many other points on the graph, and every single point on the graph points to this being a conspiracy and a cover-up. There is nothing logical about assuming that none of this was a cover-up and this happened completely organically.
No logical person could come to the conclusion that all of these things just happened to happen simultaneously, and it was like some weird stars aligning. Everybody it's like some kind of like Rube Goldberg machine that makes Jeffrey Epstein the only person. Like it's bullshit. Total bullshit.
That at 11:58 p.m. the aspect ratio changes. Yeah. It's also the case that the enhanced version and the raw version also differ from each other in how the aspect ratio changes. You can see that originally the enhanced and the regular raw version line up perfectly in terms of aspect ratio. But when the camera flips over to this new day, now their aspect ratio is actually off from each other.
Exactly. And you can see how it's probably because the new day signified a new recording, and the new recording was then resized wrongly. That's what I think happened. I actually don't think this is a smoking gun.
So why?
I don't.
I mean, this is like so obviously bad. They said they were taking their time with this. They said, oh, no shenanigans here. But this wasn't a complicated job. It was just about, like, they did mild sharpening and contrast boosting. Why they're playing around with the aspect ratio like they're a film director in their first year of film school is unimaginable to me. I just, like, cannot understand.
And Coffee's right about this, too, is that how the fuck do you not get this right? Like, I got this right in 2008 whenever I made videos in Windows Movie Maker. This is the FBI communicating information to the national public, and you're fucking it up?
Why you would be doing this in such a sloppy way. So just incredibly incompetent work here is the nicest way to say it.
Yeah.
We know now
it's it's incompetent at absolute best.
Epstein footage that they have released to us, even the raw footage was modified. Last thing I want to say is that it's the final day of Crime is Legal merch. 10% off at the link below now.
Yep, there it is. And you remind us all we are. Yeah, there has to be some sort of diversion. Whoever's responsible is corrupt and they have funding. Yeah, I don't know. If Trump's first order of business was to fire all the competent people in government, well, I don't know. I mean, I feel like they weren't there to begin with, to be honest. But yeah, I don't know. Would you want a resignation over this? I think that the person who is, I mean, actually, yeah. In a way, I think I would want a resignation over this. And the reason why is because of how mismanaged it is. That's the reason why. Like, even if all of this is true and they're telling the truth, they've mismanaged. Check the Trump tweet. It's about this. Okay, let me see what he said. Oh, let me link you Coffee's video, too. Like, I've been watching a number of his videos on this Epstein stuff, and I'm really glad to see him bringing this up and talking about it. Give him some support. I completely agree with covering this and caring about this. It's unbelievable how they believe people are idiots and wouldn't notice this. It's not just noticing one thing. It's noticing 20 things that all lead to the same conclusion. If the only thing that was wrong is, oh, the aspect ratio is different, I would go and say, yeah, well, they probably just edited it wrong or they fucked up the aspect ratio in post-production. Sure, mistakes happen. But the problem is that how is it that the mistakes that always happen seem to be in the benefit of one thing? I've always said that when coincidence and personal interest converge, in a lot of cases, it's not a coincidence. And I think this is a great example of that.
At the national level, the middle class is typically defined as households with an annual income ranging between $53,740 and $161,200.
I feel like that's a really big difference. I feel like, bro, that's a big range.
$20.
Yeah.
But middle-class
literally
Americans
basically
like
a 3x.
Kyle Connolly from Pensacola, Florida, says life has quickly grown unaffordable.
Financially, things have definitely been a struggle for me. I don't know how, but every single month I somehow manage to get by. And I'm left with, maybe this past month, I was left with $125 in my checking account, and that's it.
As of June 2024, 65% of middle-class Americans said they were struggling financially, and don't expect their situation to improve for the rest of their lives.
That's the part that's really bad. It's not that people are struggling financially. It's that they're struggling financially and there's no light at the end of the tunnel. That's it. You're just stuck here indefinitely, and that's it. There's no hope. And I feel like that's the reason, by the way, that's the reason so many people have adopted these like super extremist political views. It's because a lot of these political views, and this is like extreme right-wing and extreme left-wing politics, I feel like in both cases, they're representative of people that are just fucking fed up with how things are.
A part of the income distribution that has felt a lot of pain in the wake of the pandemic. And it wasn't something that just economists were tracking. It was something that was really felt on the household level. You know, people felt it in their grocery bills. People felt it at the gas pump.
In their own neighborhoods and in their own lives, they have their own expectations for what they can do, where they can go, where they can eat, where they can live. And
this is what's crazy for me, where you can live, is that a lot of my friends that I grew up with that lived in Austin, they now can't afford to live in the houses that they grew up in. Which is like really crazy to think of. Like a lot of my friends have moved out of Austin because of that. It's really bad.
Degree that they're facing those pressures on an individual basis, it really is causing quite a bit of an alarm.
75% of middle-income families say
so this is how much of this is because of immigration? Probably like 5% of it, maybe 10.
Actively cutting back on non-essential expenses, with 73% finding it difficult to save for the future.
I have had to reduce